lights, camera, action.
My normal light that's back here, which you can't see right now, it stopped working. So that was acting up. And then my cat, who is sitting right here, she has surgery next week. She was at the door, wanted to come in. So now I have the window open. I need to turn my little fan on. Like everything happened it's like literally at the time of showtime. It was like everything was going crazy. Okay. Anyway, everyone, welcome to, let's do the spiel here. Welcome to the Nocturnal Nerdcast, Pop Culture in the Dark special review edition. The primary topic tonight is going to be the Superman movie. I hope you saw it, 3Dub.
Okay. Twice.
Good. All right, me too. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that. If there are any other topics that you guys in the chat would like for us to talk about, you can certainly super chat it, and we will talk about it in between segments of tonight's stream. So feel free to do that to support the channel. If we reach 10 super chats of any amount at all, any color, then we'll do a poll and you guys will get to vote on it. So that's what we're trying to do tonight. But anyway, I'm sure there's other stuff people want to talk about, but drop a super chat if you want us to talk about it. All right. We do have some other guests that might be stopping in. I know that Darren is running his show right now. What is on my floor? Did something fall over? What in the world happened back here? My freaking... How did my tripod stick get under my desk? Did my cats knock it down? It's normally right over here. What in the world?
Invisible ghost.
I guess. Everything is happening tonight. I don't know. Okay. Anyway. Okay. If you would like to have another topic discussed, you can super chat it, and we will talk about it in between segments of tonight's stream. All right. So Darren is live now. I know that him and Taz are still streaming. They usually stream for about another 30 minutes or so. I don't know if they're coming or not tonight. We'll see, or either one of them. Jake said he was coming tonight, so he'll be here at some point. Wearing a Man of Steel cap for a James Gunn Superman. I'm reclaiming it. Well, I mean, 3Dub's not wearing the one from the movie either. That's from like the comic book Superman logo. So
I'm poor.
I have other Superman hats, but this is just the one I grabbed. I mean, this is like the comic book version, so I'm kind of repping for all Superman tonight, pretty much. We did get a super chat already. Let's see what this is. It is from Cameron. $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Cameron. Eric, have you seen that Spider-Man the animated series will have a panel at San Diego Comic-Con to celebrate the show's 30th anniversary? I didn't see that, but I do know that a lot of people are complaining about what we're getting at Comic-Con this year. It's not a lot that's going to be there. So I need to look it up and schedule that might be the day to do the 5-hour stream, because there's a lot of stuff for Comic-Con. That might be the day to like do that, so that way we can just like talk about everything that comes out. I remember the last time I covered Comic-Con, it was like a 4 or 5 hour stream. The stream got shut down because of like the what was it? It was because I don't think I've done did I do a Comic-Con one last year? I don't even remember. But the one we did was Zack Snyder's Justice League, where they played that song that a few years ago. It like shut the whole stream down. That was pretty funny. Anyway, thank you so much, Cameron. I do appreciate it. We are 1 out of 10 on the Reloaded channel, so I do appreciate that. All right, so I do have like a little format thing we're going to go through for Superman, but I want everybody to know we are going to be discussing spoilers. It's been up. This stream has been scheduled for like a week now. It says spoilers in the thumbnail. It says spoilers in the title. So I don't think anyone coming in is expecting no spoilers, but I just want to reiterate that if you haven't seen the movie and you haven't been spoiled yet on anything, you might want to watch this on playback after you have seen the movie. If you don't care, or if you've seen the movie once or multiple times, as some people have seen, then you can stick around and do that. So
IMAX, Dolby Digital, real 3D.
Right. The first thing I want to talk about a little bit is the opening weekend for the movie. Let's go over here. I'm going to see if I can pull up a article on this. I should have had this ready already, but I didn't. But it's okay. It's fine. We'll do it on the fly. We'll do it live. I have the numbers in front of me. I just don't have the tab ready, which I do have a bookmark over here for this.
Looks like there's a third person here.
What do you mean?
It says studio chat, 3 people.
Oh, it's the camera that I use for sharing things.
Oh, okay.
I do it on a separate tab so it doesn't pull up resources from this computer.
Got it. I was like, did someone come in?
No, that's what it was. All right, so we'll use this tab. This will be fine. We'll do this one here. Let's see, share screen. All right, so let's start out with some of the sales numbers. Get that out of the way because I know a lot of people want to talk about that. So Thursday previews hit 22.5 million, which is a 2025 record. So that was just Thursday night previews. The weekend performance domestic was 125, which brings the global total to 220. So it is doing slightly less globally, internationally than what they wanted. I think they said the numbers were down a little bit. I have to double check and look back at all the what all the outlets were saying. But as far as domestic, it's really doing well for them. Now, what we're gonna have to judge this on, because this is the result of the marketing campaign. The opening weekend is the marketing campaign. So this is what happens when you have a solid marketing campaign and you get people excited about a movie. They come out and they go see the movie as soon as it opens. Marketing campaigns typically don't affect subsequent weekends, second, third weekends. It's pretty much at that point word of mouth or people that wanted to see it but just didn't get a chance to see it opening weekend. So marketing campaigns have very little effect over subsequent weekends. So you're going to see the marketing campaign sort of ramp down. You might get a few snippets and things like that, but you're not going to get like the full-scale marketing blitz that we got over the last couple months. This was the best ever opening for a solo Superman movie, surpassing Man of Steel. I've seen people doing this adjusted for inflation argument. Can we talk about that for a second? I want to talk about this, okay? Because I think it's really important. I had somebody arguing with me about this in my comments on my video from earlier today, okay? When you adjust for inflation, and this is what a lot of the guys are doing to start this argument, when you adjust for inflation on gross sales, but you don't adjust for inflation on production budget, marketing, things like that, you are misleading people. Because Man of Steel, adjusted for inflation and production budget, takes it north of 300 million in production budget, which is 100 million more than what Superman cost to make. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to compare it adjusted for inflation, you have to do that to every single number tied to that movie. So you have to do it to the production budget of Man of Steel. You have to do it to the marketing campaign for Man of Steel. You have to do it for the cost of actors, because that would change due to inflation and the change in the way they pay actors contractually. All of that stuff has to be taken into account. That's not what they're doing. These guys are just adjusting the gross sales, the gross ticket sales for inflation. That is misleading. I'm going to have to make a separate video on this because I feel like people are completely missing the point on that one. They're going, oh, well, Man of Steel made more. Well, you have to adjust all of it for inflation. All of it. You have to adjust every single dollar that went into the movie, whether it be production budget or gross ticket sales. That's just the reality of it. I know some people don't want to hear that. Truth hurts. Truth hurts. If a movie costs more to make for inflation back in 2013, then it's going to even out in ticket sales if you adjust for inflation. It's just a dumb argument. It's just a dumb fucking argument, I swear. All right, so it says, just on its opening weekend alone, Superman's 125 debut outgrossed the entire runs of Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom, The Flash, Blue Beetle, Shazam! Fury of the Gods at US box office. That's pretty cool. I feel bad for those movies, but I actually didn't even realize that was more than what they made total. I didn't remember how low their numbers were. That's crazy.
It's also kind of funny that those are the ones that basically happened after James Gunn announced his projects.
Right. Well, I've said that before. If you look back, there was clearly a shift. I mean, we had a lot of stuff going on. You have to look at all the factors. So we had COVID stuff happening, which affected a lot of these movies. We had the fact that that universe was pretty much DOA. Like it just never really took off. There were some movies that were good, like Wonder Woman and the first Aquaman, that did really well, but other movies just never caught on. And that's part of the reason why that universe crumbled. So once James Gunn was announced to be taking over and like rebooting stuff and starting a new universe, I think a lot of people just were like, I'm not going to go spend money on these movies that are going to end on cliffhangers where we're never going to get a resolution for it. And look, whether they ended on a cliffhanger or not, it doesn't matter. That's what people thought. So yeah. It says here, it goes to show how tarnished and beyond repair the DCU brand was on the US on its final days in 2023, and what a miracle it means for the DCU to have such a massive opening coming out of such lows and carrying such a negative baggage. And that's true. These guys tried really hard to make this movie fail. 3W, you saw like all the hate stuff out there about this movie. Like it was every day. Every day. They tried really hard to clear that. But you know what? If it didn't affect the opening weekend, it's not going to affect any other weekend. That's the thing about that. The hate campaigns against these movies work the same way marketing works. Like if it's going to affect it, you're going to see that effect in the first weekend. The only thing that will ruin these movies beyond that first weekend is bad word of mouth. Like if people that have actually seen the movie come out of it and say they didn't have a good time, that will affect subsequent weekends. The other factor is one that I hate to talk about, but we have to talk about it. Actually, I'm going to pull it up on screen here now. And that is our favorite website, Rotten Tomatoes. As much as I hate that people use this as a metric, we have to discuss this too. So we're beyond the point of changing scores, right? We're beyond the point of changing scores.
That is remarkable. Like 10,000 verified ratings, just 93%. Right. Wow.
Yeah. So look, I'm not a tried true believer in Rotten Tomatoes, but the general public seems to be aware of this. The studios are aware of this. They use Rotten Tomatoes as a metric for a ton of things, for advertising, things like that. So you have the critics coming through at 83%. Remember I said when we looked at it last week, it wasn't going to change much, and it didn't. It didn't change much from last week. So 83% still certified fresh. Fan score is 93% with 10,000 plus verified ratings, which means they've gone through and verified these are not like bots. They're not spam accounts. So these are people that are reviewing from legitimate accounts. Now, there could be some manipulation, but I don't think it's enough to skew this far into the positive.
93% still like, whoo, up there.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, you look at this, there's really like anybody that is coming hard at this movie, pause. Anybody that is going hard on this movie, that's better. Going hard against this movie is trying really, really hard. It's like a really try hard because you can't use the critic score. You can't use the audience score. They're going to lie and say that critics were paid when that's absolutely illegal. You can't pay a critic for a positive score without them disclosing it. It's against the law. They can't do that. Or they're going to say that fans are love bombing the movie. Okay, I've never seen a love bomb be this effective. Like, I've never seen a love bomb take a movie up into the 90% range. I've never seen that before.
Honestly,
after Rotten Tomatoes has changed the way they vet reviews. So
review bombing is more plausible than love bombing.
Well, like, so the reason why I don't like either one of them. I'm not a fan of review bombing or love bombing, but there's no net negative to love bombing. Like love bombing a movie, there's no downside to it. If people are hyping a movie up because they enjoy the movie or whatever, it doesn't really affect much because if a movie is bad, there's no amount of love bombing that's going to make people get tricked into a movie being good. You know what I mean? Like if a movie has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and like thousands of people go to the theater and see that the movie sucks, they're going to be like, that's obviously those people don't know what they're talking about, right? Like individually, an individual person. But it's not going to affect people in a large way like review bombing does. Review bombing typically prevents people from spending money because they don't want to waste money on something they think is going to be bad because Rotten Tomatoes has said it's bad. I think it's a bad metric. I don't think we should ever use Rotten Tomatoes as a determining factor whether we're going to spend money on a ticket for a movie or not. That's just my opinion. I think if you're going to spend money on a ticket for a movie, you should do it because you want to see the movie. Not because someone else said you should see it or somebody said you shouldn't see it. I think that's really dope.
We use the trailers to decide if we're going to see a movie or not
right.
Critics.
Yeah. But now we have a bunch of people online who are trying to tell people whether they should or shouldn't see something. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, All right, we've got another super chat. Let's do that, and then we're going to get into what's the next thing on my list here.
Someone coming after you?
I know I need to shut that window. My cat came in. My cat was fighting to come in, and then I let her in, and now she's somewhere else. I don't know where she went. So let me shut the window now. And I'm actually going to also close the door. So 1 second. All right. Now watch, they're both, my two cats are going to come back to the door now and want to come in because I shut the door, even though they weren't in here. So we're going to talk about individual character breakdowns and our thoughts on those in just a second. But let's do this super chat first from Cameron. $10 super chat here. Eric, have you seen that Eddie Gathegi reveals that he was told Darwin would be resurrected in a future film after X-Men First Class when he voiced concerns? I did see that. Like, why? Why even kill the character in the first place if you're just planning on resurrecting him? That lowers the stakes to a point where it's like, why even bother? I know characters do come back, but I feel like in this case, you were supposed to show how powerful your antagonist was by killing off a character very easily. You know,
I think this. I think this. Darwin. He had the major comeback from his X-Men First Class to his Superman. I think he had the best major comeback in the history of comebacks because I think he dethroned Ryan Reynolds from going from Green Lantern to Deadpool.
You think so?
Major comeback. Yeah. He was terrific. Pun intended.
All right. Okay. So thank you for the super chat, Cameron. We are 2 out of 10 now. So we need 8 more. We got an hour and 40 minutes to do it. Anyway. All right. So let's go ahead. We're going to go through each individual character. I have like a little outline here to make things flow better. In the chat, remember, if you want to chime in, you can. If you would like to support the stream, you can super chat, super sticker. Join with a membership. You get early access to the Discord. That's still happening. However you want to do it. Or if you want us to discuss something between segments, you can super chat for that. All right. Let's start out with Superman himself, which is David Corenswet. I have been a massive Tyler Hoechlin fan for a long time.
Hashtag fan.
Hashtag Tyler Hoechlin is my Superman. No, I love Tyler, and he's been the guy that I've looked to because he's an older Superman. I'm an older person, so it's like I sort of resonated with that character a little bit because I'm like, oh, look, it's Superman with a whole ass family, and he's still being Superman.
He's representing the old folk.
I feel seen. Yeah, no, definitely. But no, I love that about him. He was an older Superman. He had, he was passing his mantle on to his kids and stuff like that. So I was very apprehensive going into this movie with David Corenswet as Superman. However, after seeing it a second time, I do have a criticism about it, which I'll mention here in a second. But
me too.
I really enjoyed him as Superman, and I think I liked him better as Clark Kent. I loved his Clark Kent. I think his Clark Kent was really good. Especially the moments we got with him, sort of, you could see how his emotion was shaping the way he was handling situations, like with Lois when they were doing the interview and stuff like that. So I did really enjoy that. And he looks the part. I think he looks really good as Clark and Superman. I think the suit looked good and practicality in the movie. Pagey did say he thought we were going to get another suit. We did not get another suit. So L to Pagey for that one. Because remember, he kept saying that he felt like they were going to get a different suit.
Apparently his parents cleaned his boots.
Yeah, I know. That was pretty silly. We'll get to the parents in a moment. I really enjoyed him. Now, here's my criticism on this one. First and foremost, I don't think we got enough time with him individually. I would have liked. What is that?
You mean as Clark Kent?
Well, just himself. Like, right. I feel like James Gunn was balancing a lot of characters. And I don't think he mismanaged most of them. I think most of them he handled really well. The problem is, this movie, I think, was about 20 minutes too short. I think we should have given Clark or Superman a little bit more time for us to sort of lean into him as this character, because as good as James is at balancing characters out, the movie's ensemble cast felt full, but I think Superman should have been given just a little bit more time. I mean, they could have cut out some other segments just to give us a little more time with David as Clark Kent and Superman, but that's not necessarily a huge negative for me. What that means is I really want more of David as Superman. I want to see more of Clark Kent, more of Superman, and I hope we get more of that down the road. I know that he said there is some sort of a sequel happening. It's not really Superman 2. It's something else.
I was kind of the opposite, actually.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Say what you got to say about David Corn's wife.
I thought, like, we had a lot of Superman. We needed more Clark Kent.
Okay.
Because it was like fight scene after fight scene after fight scene. And then you had the little sprinkles of Clark Kent and, with Lois. But, yeah, it felt like there should have been, like, more Clark Kent.
But that's that small villain you talking. You want to see more of Clark, basically. No, I don't disagree with you. So let's talk about Lois then. We'll move on to Lois next here. Lois was a really good character, but Lois had a lot of time doing things where we got to see her doing what she does best, but that the moments with Clark weren't long enough. I think that we had that sort of mini breakup thing with them in the apartment with the interview thing they were doing, and it didn't feel like it was fully, I don't think they really committed to fixing it. And then we get to the end and it's like, they're okay with each other. And look, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing in terms of like how people actually do this in real life. I just would have loved to have seen more of them together. And that could have been added into that extra 20 minutes. Like the Batman movie, the Batman, Robert Pattinson Batman movie, I felt like that movie was too long. I felt like it was an additional half an hour that didn't need to be there. With this Superman movie, I feel like they could have justified giving it another 20 or 30 minutes. That's just me personally. But because of that, because of my opinions on both Lois and Clark and Superman in this instance, it means that I want to see more of them. Like I want to know more about these characters. So hopefully we do get more of that dynamic down the road. What happens if they do a Superman and Lois movie? What if they do that? Like the next movie isn't a Superman; it's a Superman and Lois movie.
For me, with Lois in particular, I felt like we just basically dropped in at 3 years. We missed the beginning, the story of how the struggles. And also we see the outcome of the struggle and then the resolution. I'm like, well, what happened? How did they meet? Like, what happened with the first encounter? There was a lot of emptiness that we didn't see. But this is, in particular, this Superman film was done differently than what we've seen before. We're basically in a new territory where we're kind of like Superman Lois, where we jump into kids, where he just he's 40 years old now, and like that. But
he wasn't that old. This is just I think it's like 10 years into him being Superman,
technically Tyler Hoechlin's 40 years old.
I know, I get it. I understand. Look, speaking of that, we should go ahead and address this because I don't have it in my notes, but I think it's a good time to sort of interject with this part, and that is, in chat, I want you to chime in as well. How do we feel about jumping into this world where metahumans have been around for 3 decades? The public has known about them for 3 decades. They're part of everyday life to the point where when there's battles going on in the city, some people don't even pay attention to it. We saw at the Daily Planet, Kat Grant wasn't even paying attention to what was happening on the news because she was too busy just talking about her day-to-day life. So we're setting up that these characters have existed for 30 years-ish in this world. And I've seen people complain about the fact that they think they jump too far ahead into the timeline. Because I know people don't want origin stories. And I would agree. I think an origin story is unnecessary. I think we've seen the origin story for these characters. If they're close enough to what we remember, there's no point in diving too heavily into them. That doesn't matter too much to me. But some of the criticism has been that we jumped in too far into the timeline.
I'll say it's a little jarring with the landing as you're basically jumping in 3 years.
Oh, excuse me, 3 centuries. Right. Sorry, I didn't. Sorry, Marisu. Go ahead. Anyway, go ahead.
Jumping
Yeah.
basically 3 years into the story. I thought it was a little jarring at first, but as the story goes on, I'm like, I didn't mind it.
Mhm.
But I get that some people want the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Mhm.
We don't usually get that, but we're jumping in the middle.
I do wonder if we're going to get a lot more prequel movies than what we think we're going to get, because there's so much time and characters they could cover. So I think that's, that's interesting, because it leaves a door open for stories. Like, we know Sergeant Rock is a possibility. I still think that could happen.
I still think JSA could happen.
Maybe.
Like the original with Jay Garrick and all that.
Yeah.
And Alan, what's the first Green Lantern? Alan Scott?
Oh, I thought you meant like the one for this universe, and I'm like,
no, I meant like no.
Literally, Guy Gardner is the first one we're meeting. You meant like in
literally that's the first one we saw, but there's still Hal Jordan and John Stewart.
Yeah. Chaos says it's only too late because we have no clue on the metas meeting and the humans coming to terms with it. I wonder if we'll actually see that though. Like, what I think is, okay, my takeaway from this is that James Gunn is going to explore all of this over time. That his plan is to explore all of this at one point or another, and we're just not going to get it in the Superman movie. I also think he didn't want to like start out where there were no heroes at all except for Superman. Keep in mind also, in the movie, they say that Superman has never been beat until at this point, where we see him fighting basically Ultraman in an Iron Man suit.
Also, it kind of makes me excited for the Batman film, because he's basically going to be dropped into like basically how we were dropped in with Superman 3 years in. Like, we're probably going to get dropped in like randomly in his career, and possibly where he knows metahumans exist and stuff like that. So it's going to be an interesting film to dive into.
I agree. Let's see what some of the comments are. We got a few super chats here. Sheldor coming with a $2 super chat. Some of the writing felt a bit too obvious to me. I mean, you'd have to give me an example.
I will.
Do you have an example?
I do have an example of basically when we saw the first fight, right, with the guy in the armor, which we later find out that can I say it?
Just call Ultraman. Yes.
Okay, Ultraman. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, this big guy in the Ultraman had little balls surrounding him. I'm like, why not just doesn't he have super hearing? As I go
you're saying so what was being said to
if he like literally lasered all of those little balls, he would have won. Because as you found out in the later on,
even though I just saw it, I don't think we ever saw an example of super hearing, did we?
Not really. I mean, he basically confirmed he could hear him, and they had a full-on conversation with, or was the balls on speaker?
Yeah, but I don't think we ever saw like an example of him like listening to something like a mile away or something like that. Like, I don't think we ever saw that in the movie.
I don't think it was. So does he not have super hearing?
I feel like he has to, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of things like that you could probably figure out in the movie, but I don't know if we know why. Like, was it because the audio was tuned specifically for Ultraman or something like that? Like, we don't know those things because it didn't tell us in the movie. So we don't really have a way to determine, I guess, what was actually going on there. But that's a good point. I've actually got a criticism about something at the end of the movie that we'll talk about. $2 super chat from Screwface Capone says Bunk Moreland is Perry White. That is all. Perry White was great in the movie. I loved him in the movie. again, it was a very, very large cast, and he was balancing a ton of people. My hope is that we get more of these characters in other projects so we get to know them a little bit better.
He got to meet basically an actor that played Superman and an actor that played Fantastic Mr. Terrific, John Krasinski.
Yeah.
Not long, but still.
Cameron with a $5 super chat here, talking about South Park. Eric, have you seen that South Park got pulled from Paramount Plus due to licensing dispute? Yeah, I actually think there's some court case coming up. I saw a little bit about that earlier today. That I think they're being taken to court. Is it the creators are taking them to court? I think it is. I don't know what's going to happen. South Park is one of the most pirated things ever. Like, I think you can go here on YouTube and watch the majority of the episodes on YouTube for free. And if not, they're probably on other video streaming sites. Just pointing something out. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not condoning it, okay? Not condoning that. But I'm saying, I think you can. Cody with the $5 super chat. It's actually funny. He's in his third year in Smallville 3x17. His legacy. I'm not a fan of villainizing Krypton. Yeah, so Cody, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about when we get to that point in the conversation. I have my thoughts about Jor-El and that whole plot.
I also have my thoughts because it kind of resembled what happened in Smallville too.
What are you talking about?
It was misinterpreted. Because basically
the message.
The message in the ship was misinterpreted. Just like I think Jor-El, that message was misinterpreted.
Well, we'll talk about it. I have some thoughts on that. Zach with a $1.99 super chat. Crypto had super hearing, I thought. I guess, yeah, because I'm assuming that he could hear whenever, wherever Clark was whistling for him, he could hear it.
Yeah,
dogs when he was in the pocket dimension.
Dogs have high hearing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think in the movie, I'm probably going to see it a third time this week. So I'll pay attention to that and see if there's any thing that stands out to me about the super hearing thing.
It's like super hearing times 3 with the dog.
Right. Let's talk about the supporting characters. We have the Justice Gang, which is Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawk Girl. All right, so 2 of these characters I think were great. One of them I don't think they did enough with because it wasn't explained a lot about the character. Do you know which one that I think they didn't do enough with is?
Hawk Girl?
Yes.
I'm like, you didn't get backstory. Okay,
first of all, I think she's great. She did great in the movie. I have no complaints about her character. Love her personality. When she wants to murder someone, she's like, "I'm not Superman." I was like, okay.
And we didn't even get to see the body smash.
I know because it wasn't rated R, but still, I thought she was great in the role. Very, very underdeveloped in the movie. We got cool moments with her, but I wasn't sure. People in the chat who are Hawkman and Hawkgirl experts, you have to let me know about this because I'm not totally sure. I don't know every single story ever of the Hawks. Her wings are supposed to be organic, correct? In this universe? Where did they go? There were scenes where she didn't have her wings. So my question is, in the comics, is it canon? I'm not going to pretend I know something if I don't. Is it canon in the comics that they can hide their wings completely? Is that something they're capable of doing? Because I don't know if that's
I think they do kind of retract and
completely to completely flat on their back.
I don't think it's completely flat. I think they go inside their body.
Sort of like Naomi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wait, yeah, Naomi.
That wasn't really a criticism of mine. I didn't know if it was completely explained. Kendra doesn't have wings. That's the thing. What? In the movie? Are we talking about the movie version, or are we talking about the canon comic book storyline? I'm talking about just the movie specifically, compared to what's happened in the comics. Was it confirmed in the movie that she doesn't actually have wings? I didn't remember that being said in the movie. Or did James Gunn talk about that in an interview?
I think James Gunn said they were organically, or something like that. I think we've heard organic from someone.
That's not really a massive complaint of mine. It's just that the suit didn't really look like there was a place for her wings to come out of. So even if they retract, like there's no cutouts in the suits.
But I did really like her war cries. Those were awesome.
Yes, she has wings, but sometimes they are organic and sometimes they are technology. That's the question I'm asking. Well, see, that's the thing, Sheldor, is there wasn't a lot that we know about the character. I liked her personality. I think her fighting was really badass.
Her war cries were phenomenal.
I mean, that's kind of it. By the way, Nathan as Guy Gardner was incredible.
Yeah, I'm still rolling.
I am so glad that that my fears about that were nothing. I'm so glad he killed that role.
I still rolling off the chair with the whole flipping off the tanks.
I thought it was great. Probably there's a few standout performances in the movie for me. I think that was one of them for me. I think it was really good. I don't know how he's going to fit in with the Green Lantern TV show though, personality wise.
Seeing the Lois banter, your haircut should be against your vows. My what should be a what?
I'm totally down with that. I really enjoyed Guy Gardner, and I want to see much more of that character for sure. All right, let's talk about my favorite character out of the Justice Gang, and that is Mr. Terrific.
He's goddamn
hands down for me. I found him more interesting than anybody else in the movie.
He was the highlight.
I thought he was incredible.
He was
terrific.
Yeah,
Mr. Terrific was terrific.
He was the goddamn Mr. Terrific.
Let me tell you right now, the scene where he goes looking for Superman and he uses the T-spheres to protect Lois, but then also to fight while he's out there fighting and stuff. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. This is so good. That scene alone was worth the price of admission. It was so
Lois
good.
Literally said, are you going to use those circles? And he goes, circles? They're T-spheres.
Circles are flat. But yeah, no, absolutely great. I loved this version of the character. I loved Eddie in this role. I know Grace Randolph did a whole video saying that she didn't like him as Mr. Terrific based on the set photos. Hold that L, Grace. I'm sorry. No, he was one of the best parts of the movie. And when we talked about this last week, that James Gunn had hinted at maybe a Mr. Terrific show and a Jimmy Olsen show. We'll talk about Jimmy in a bit.
Jimmy. Wow.
But Mr. Terrific in a show, first of all, it would be really expensive, I think, because of the amount of technology he has. So who knows what that would look like overall. But yes, 1,000 times. 1,000 times for Mr. Terrific. All the technology, the fighting.
All that technology, and he couldn't fix the garage door.
Look, here you go. South Texas Shark, $2 super chat. The garage scene killed me. I tell you right now, that was probably one of the biggest laughs in my theater. Both times I went and saw it. When he's standing there and the door is just going
it's comedy and realistic comedy is
it's one of those things where it gets to a point where it's gone on for too long. And then you let it go a little bit longer, and then you're like, no, this is hilarious. This is so funny. so good. I can't wait to have him back. He was so strong in the movie. There were people complaining that he was saving people. He's a fucking superhero. He's supposed to save people. That's the point. We're going to get to my overall thoughts on all of that with Superman and the different characters when we get towards the end of this review, because I want to save that till the end, because we're just doing individual character stuff right now. But Mr. Terrific, AAAA plus, 100%. No notes whatsoever. Give us more of that character. Okay, let's talk about Crypto, who is going to be a big selling toy for kids this year. Everybody's going to want Crypto.
That dog, it was just phenomenal.
Okay, I love the dog, but I also hated the dog. I was like, this dog is cool. This dog is also a fucking mess. Because there were scenes where I'm grabbing my chair like this, fucking do something right now. You see that there's something happening and you're not listening. You're being a bad dog. You're not paying attention to anything that's going on. But overall, like, I like the character. The kids were laughing at it. I can tell this is going to be a big toy for kids. I feel like it's going to be something we're going to see a lot of children. I mean, we're going to get the character in multiple movies. We're going to see Crypto in multiple movies. So we know that.
He finally understood, by the way. Like, he finally understood when the Superman, when he was like, get the toy. And he goes,
oh, yeah. I will say I love the fact that Superman said that he had to like keep an eye on Crypto so he doesn't kill cows because he's a super dog and he doesn't totally know that like other animals aren't super
You brought the dog, man.
Look, Shadia says, I love dogs, but Crypto needed a scolding. I agree. 100%. 100%. Let's see. Who do I have next here? I guess let's talk about one more big supporting character, and then we're going to jump towards a spoilery character at the end of the movie that I want to talk about because I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Metamorpho, great character. I want to see more of him. I thought he had a lot of heart. You could tell that he was emotionally scarred from what Lex was doing to him, locking him up in the pocket dimension and holding his kid against his will. I feel like, again, we're going to do a shout out to Paigey. He's not here, but I feel like we might be getting like a version of the Terrifics because of what's happening. Like, I feel like that's the direction we're going. Like, I don't know if Mr. Terrific is going to end up being in the Justice League eventually or something like that. But I think the Terrifics, we have Metamorpho, we have Mr. Terrific. Like, these are characters that are well received. They could definitely do a version of that storyline. And I think people would really appreciate that. I would appreciate that personally.
I laughed at that one scene where he's like, we should have him in the Justice Gang. And he goes, Justice Gang? You really want this guy in the Justice Gang? And he goes, Justice Gang, that's a really cool name. You're in.
Right. So Metamorpho was goated for me when Superman was like, I'm weak and I need the sun. He's like, well, I can't turn into the sun, but he starts combining the elements together to make a sun. And I'm like, goated. Fucking immediately. This is what James Gunn does so well. James Gunn, like, you can dislike stuff that James does, but one of the things he does really well is he takes these unassuming characters from comic books that people don't understand why they're powerful or how they can be useful in XYZ situation. And he makes them useful. He makes people care about them. Like Ratcatcher from the Suicide Squad. He made people care about a character called Ratcatcher. Like, just, I mean, this is what he does best, you know?
And Michael Rosenbaum was a guard in that whole scene.
Oh, like, yeah.
Yep. He voiced
we're going to talk about Lex in a second. Okay. Let's jump ahead to a character that we saw at the very end of the movie. And I am so ready for her movie now, and that is Supergirl. I am 110% ready for the Supergirl movie.
She just let Crypto just pounce her.
I know. That's why he's a bad dog. That's why he does what he does, because she doesn't scold him for anything.
I mean, if she found out that Lex stole her dog and locked him up and tried to he would be a toothpaste right now.
But I tell you right now, 3Dub and everybody in the chat, I am so ready for a Supergirl movie now based on her personality, because she is a fucking rock star, and I cannot wait to see that on the big screen. Think of the juxtaposition. She called Superman a bitch. Like,
thanks for watching him, bitch.
Right. Think about the juxtaposition of that when we see her in her own movie and how good that's going to be.
Oh my gosh, that gave me Woman of Tomorrow vibes.
That's it, though. I mean, like, she nailed that vibe immediately, absolutely immediately. And they set up the fact that she likes to go to planets and get drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So that's established now. So I feel like this is good. We got Jake in the house. What's up, Jake?
Yeah, they're spoon feeding directly what's coming in Woman of Tomorrow with that.
Yeah. Well, we're just talking about all the individual characters. So all you've missed is us talking about like each character that we liked and everything. But we just started talking about Supergirl, so we didn't get much with her. The house next door.
How are you today?
But yeah, so Supergirl, I am so ready now for that movie. I don't know how they're going to keep that momentum going for next year. You know what I mean? Like to keep us excited between now and then. I'm assuming when he says characters are going to show up in other things, he might mean Supergirl.
Well, no matter what, it'll at least be better than the last film titled Supergirl.
Okay. What do you think about Supergirl from The Flash?
You know, I really wish we could have seen more of her because I loved her in the little amount of screen time that she had.
Right.
You know, if there was going to be anybody else aside from Zolo that I would have, would have been completely fine to see them ring over, it probably would have been Sasha because the only time you saw her was in an alternate timeline that never happened. So if they wanted to bring her over, I'd be fine with that. But from what we got of Millie so far, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm interested at least.
Yeah. All right. Did we get another super chat here? No, we're caught up. We're 8 out of 10, I think, right now.
From the only thing I've seen Millie in is House
7
of the Dragon, though, and just based off that, I feel like she has the acting chops to pull off the edge that Supergirl needs. Because even though I liked what Melissa did with the character, she was pretty much just a gender bent Superman down to the reporter aspect.
Right.
And
so, I see people in the chat saying a certain thing. We're not going to repeat that. Before we move on, because I want to talk about Lex next. Before we move on to Lex, do you want to give your thoughts on like David and Rachel as Superman and Lois, like your overall thoughts of that, and the Justice King, Jake? Like any of your just overall thoughts of those characters?
So I thought David and Rachel had really good chemistry together. I think that 10-minute interview really cemented that. How they, that they felt like real characters, not just, carbon copies or caricatures. The Justice Gang, I won't even say just for that team, but probably for the entire movie, Terrific was probably the standout for me. Nathan Fillion did a lot better as Guy Gardner than I thought he would, and Hawkgirl did not need to be in this movie.
That was like the comment I made before you got here was I liked what we saw of her, but she had nothing. Like they didn't do anything with her. Like we got to see her personality a little bit, and we got to see how she's different from Superman because she's like, I'm not Superman, or whatever. So that's there. But in my opinion, they didn't really do much with her.
And the bit that we got, honestly, that was one of my negatives. Just this, the screaming bit that really got on my nerves.
Really? Several people said they liked that.
I was not a fan of that personally.
What did you think of that 3W? You didn't mention the Hawkgirl scream, did you?
Yeah, I did. I was like, I loved the
you did
war
love
cry.
it. Okay.
I mean, if you want to do that like far away in a flying shot where you see the wings, that's one thing. But just having her do that over and over in the guys,
over and over again.
Okay,
but yeah,
come on, like this is just monotonous.
Hero's Journey is chiming in with a super chat. Can't wait to see the DCU Complex Girl. Isn't it Hero? Wait, what is it? Isn't there another
Complex?
God Complex Girl. Okay, got it. Yeah, there you go. Lone Wolf with a $2 super chat. Did you see the Supergirl tweet? Check Discord. I did not. Let me check quickly. By the way, it's a good time to remind people about Discord. If you would like to, where did you post it? Lone Wolf?
General.
In general. Let me... Wait, where is this? Is it the tweet you want me to read?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. All right. Yeah, we'll look at that. Hold on. Let me pull that up here. Thank you so much. It's the one about Millie Alcock, right? That's the one. All right. Let's see.
Oh, God. Sheldor, why'd you have to bring that up? I just looked over and just rolled my eyes.
What were you talking about?
What Sheldor brought up in the chat.
Oh, my gosh. That does make sense.
I had to make that comparison. Jesus.
Oh, I can't. For some reason,
Now I can't unsee it. Thanks a lot, Sheldor. You
Let me check
ruined my likeness for it.
I'll look here in a second.
Here I was thinking that that movie could just never be mentioned again.
Which one is it here? Oh, God, Love and Thunder, the goats. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean this statement makes sense.
Yeah, so James Gunn says Millie Alcock's Supergirl will be a total mess. She had a completely different background for Superman, a much more difficult background. This makes sense to me, but this opens up a plot hole for me that I hope they address later on. And where are we at in my notes? I want to see where we're at. Here.
She was also old enough to have witnessed Krypton die and remembers what happened. So
right. So we'll go ahead and talk about it now since we're talking about Supergirl. So one of the big plot points in the movie is that Lex, the engineer, and Ultraman break into the fortress to find dirt on Superman that they can use to make him look bad to the public because supposedly the world loves him and they don't care necessarily about quote unquote killing him. They want to ruin his image to the world because that's what Lex cares about. He's got an ego and his ego needs to be fed.
He wants to be the hero.
Yeah. So they break in and they basically destroy all the robots, which, by the way, the robots were fine. People were saying they were annoying. I thought they were fine to me. I didn't have an issue with the robots. What about you guys? Any issues with the robots? I just thought they were fine.
I didn't mind them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were kind of what they said was kind of like redundant because they seemed to have feelings either way.
Yeah, I think that was kind of maybe a joke that didn't land. I think there's a few of those in the movie. But so they break in and the engineer hacks into the computer and is able to recover a message that is corrupted that Clark has never seen the whole message, right? So it's a message from his parents that is in Kryptonian that the beginning of the message seems hopeful and then the back half of the message is talking about conquering the world, ruling over the world, stuff like that. So they take that and they basically leak it to the world to sort of ruin Superman's image. Now, James Gunn has gone on record, I believe, I don't have the interview here, but gone on the record saying that or I guess that it's real, that there's that's not a fake video. The video is the actual video from Krypton with Jor-El.
Wow. I don't understand how the engineer was able to decrypt it that fast.
I don't know either, but that's not the issue I have with it. So the issue I have with this, and chat, tell me if I'm wrong about it. You guys always do. You drag me. So if you have to drag me, drag me. Why would any of this be a mystery if Kara remembers Krypton?
With what?
The idea they wanted to conquer the world. Why would that be a mystery? Because she would know that, right? She was on Krypton. She understands how Kryptonians were. Why would that message be a mystery? I mean, we can assume maybe she didn't see the message, and so she never talked about it with Clark. That's probably one thing that could fill out the plot hole there. But if not, if she did know about the message, then she would very easily be like, yeah, they wanted you to come here to take over the Earth. Because she would know.
I mean, she could have just not seen it.
That's the only way out of it is to say that she didn't see the message.
I think she already interpreted the way it's supposed to be interpreted, and it's not supposed to sound negative. I think the real message was misinterpreted.
Well, Chaos, that's the only out. I hope that that's the case because otherwise, I know people are saying that maybe Kara doesn't know them or wasn't close to them. I'm not saying them specifically. Okay, let me zoom out of my idea here. If that is the general sentiment of people from Krypton, if they are sort of like these people that take over worlds and rule over worlds, which is what I assume is the way their civilization was, sort of like what Zod was doing in Man of Steel, but like everybody on that planet feels that way, and Jor-El didn't have a different opinion, which I think is the issue that people have with it, is that Jor-El was supposedly the voice of reason on Krypton when all of this stuff was going on. But here we find out in this story, Jor-El is basically just appealing to everything that the Kryptonian race appeals to. So my issue here is that even if Kara didn't know them, she would still know that is how her people felt. Right? I mean, that should be something that she would know. Even if she didn't know them closely, she would still know that's the general vibe of Krypton.
Unless these two are meant to be outliers in this case and kind of deviating from the normal Kryptonian way of thought.
No, I don't think that. Like, I don't think that Kara or Clark feel that way at all. I think that's
not
obvious.
Kara and Clark. I mean Jor-El and Allura.
So you're saying that Kryptonians are not conquerors, but Jor-El is?
Maybe, I don't know.
That makes it even worse, actually.
I don't know.
Because, like, for me, if Jor-El was just following the leader, I could say, well, that's just how all Kryptonians felt, and maybe he was too ignorant. But if Jor-El wanted to conquer Earth and everybody else was like pacifists, that would be crazy. That would be crazy to me, honestly. Right? Is that wrong to feel that way? I feel like that would be a really bad way to do it.
I mean, we've seen crazier things happen, but I get your point.
I just feel like, so, okay, I understand why James did it the way he did. Let me explain why. He wanted to show that Superman's humanity is inspired by his Earth parents. He wanted to show that because Clark's parents were very down to earth. Some people didn't like them. I thought they were charming. The telephone call thing was hilarious because I know, like, my fucking aunt and my grandmother would do that. Like, they would have trouble talking on the speakerphone, which I always thought was funny. All of that was very, like, charming. It felt very real. It felt very natural. At the beginning of the movie, they show that Clark is soothed by seeing the message from Jor-El, from Krypton, everything. And so seeing his parents together makes him feel better. He wanted that emotional feeling at the end of the movie when they say that, and then the message is videos of his Earthbound parents. So the intent was to progress the story for Superman, to progress the story for Clark. But they did that at the expense of Jor-El and all of that lineage from Krypton. It also feeds into the idea that, and this is getting a bit social and political, we can dismiss this, but I do want to point it out because people talked about this. This idea that immigrants come over with bad intentions. Because James Gunn wanted us to believe that people that are immigrating are good and they're helping the world, which is what he's trying to show with Superman, right? That's the immigration story that he's showing. But at the same time, he's also showing that Superman's parents had bad intentions when they sent him there, meaning they sent him there specifically to conquer the world.
I mean,
I'm just saying, like, this is what people are talking about when it comes to, like, the idea of immigration. So I'm not going to dive too deep in it, but that's the talk right now.
It kind of reminds me of what happened in Smallville. I know I say Smallville a lot, but Jor-El's message for Clark in Smallville was Clark will be a god among men on Earth, and that he should rule them with strength. Clark interpreted this as conquer the planet. The interpretation shift was, while the initial message seemed to point to conquering role, later episodes and storylines revealed that Jor-El's intentions might be more complex. He might be trying to prepare Clark to protect Earth from the future threats or guide humanity towards a better future. I think it was misinterpreted.
Well, so then we have to look at it this way. Go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
The thing that gets me is whenever the message is being displayed and, Clark, looks around and he's like, hey, like, this isn't right. This can't be true. And Terrific's like, no, it's legit. How were any of them able to transcribe Kryptonian language? Like that doesn't really make any sense.
Okay, I'm gonna, like, throw out a few things here that might explain it, or maybe I'm just, like, giving it too much credit. But we know that metahumans and people and aliens have been coming to Earth for a while now. Like, they talked about it at the beginning of the movie. I think that linguists on Earth probably have ways of ciphering, like, language that isn't from Earth. They probably have some sort of technology, because they said it was, like, corroborated by X amount of linguists on the planet to make sure they got the right translation. I'm just going to take that as face value that the translation is probably right, because that's the way they make it seem in the. I think
it's still a misinterpretation of the meaning of conquer.
I don't think so, 3Dub. I actually have a better way out of this. So, two things that could happen here. Mm-hmm. We don't know if the engineer made them say the things that she wanted them to say before they released that information to the public. We don't know that. We still have no idea. Now, this could be giving them an out on it, because that would be the good thing, is that the engineer just basically made them say whatever she wanted them to say at that point. She could have. Or there's some other outside influence that doctored that message before Clark got it. I think some people in the chat were saying maybe Brainiac. It's possible that somebody could have doctored those messages to make them say that. Could have been Zod. Could have been anybody. There's other people that could have had access to that and they could have doctored those messages before they came to Earth. So they still have an opportunity to change that later on and say that the messages aren't real. But as of right now, I do believe they're supposed to be authentic in the sense that the world believes they're authentic and that Clark believes they're authentic.
I was going to say, what purpose would Brainiac even have for doing that? Like, he hasn't met them yet. He has no reason to turn humanity against Superman yet.
Unless he's already on Earth hiding out. I'm just saying, there's things they could do. My biggest issue really is the Supergirl stuff. If Supergirl knew what their civilization was about, and she was aware of that message, she would have known where the message was going. You know what I mean? That's my only real criticism of it, and they still have an opportunity to change that later.
What if she?
Wild Darren has appeared. Get out your Pokeballs, everyone.
What if she
you were
kind
gonna
of
make
like?
it, Darren. Sorry, 3Dub. I didn't think you were going to make it tonight.
I summon you.
What if like
Oh,
she knows the like she knows the message isn't bad. Like, what if she like had no reason to tell him because she?
So, 3Dub, you want me to help you with this one?
Okay.
Okay.
Be my guest.
This one. I think the reason why Kara goes out and drinks is because she does know that her civilization were bad. Like, she knows that there.
Oh, that's terrible.
I mean, that would be just cause for people to drink.
Yeah, I think she's drinking her sorrows away, basically, because she's got a dog. The dog is like her companion. It seems like she doesn't care much about destroying property, things like that. She's kind of reckless. I think we might find out that she knows how bad things were on Krypton, and she struggles with dealing with it. So she compartmentalizes it and keeps it to herself, which is probably why she didn't tell Clark what the message said. This is why I say I think later on they could fix the idea that she would have known what's on the message, but she didn't want to tell Clark. That's what I think.
And because she has a lot of that Kryptonian background that he doesn't have, in various interpretations, she's kind of seen it as her, I guess, her responsibility, if you want to call it, to teach him the good values of Krypton while hiding, the bad parts.
Well, to be fair, in her defense, she doesn't have to tell him anything because Krypton doesn't exist anymore.
Right, but I mean, still he would still want to know.
I think he would. I think so. Let me ask you guys a question. By the way, Darren, I didn't know if you were going to make it tonight. You said you probably weren't going to make it, so I'm glad you're here. So thank you.
I said I might not. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but oh well.
Glad you did.
So basically, Darren, we've just talked about each individual character, and we were just wrapping up with Supergirl. The next character we're going to talk about is Lex. Did you have any thoughts on Supergirl? Because I said that it makes me very excited for the Supergirl movie. So that's just me.
I really loved it. Like I was actually kind of shocked when I saw so many people disliking it, and I understand why. Like I can understand where the controversy is kind of coming from. But I thought it was such a good pitch for that movie. Like I found her to be instantly likable, and I think her and Clark's dynamic is there instantly. Like they instantly have that chemistry, and I'm already like really wanting that like. I really do think Superman 2 is going to be like Children of Krypton or something, where it's like those two movies kind of coming together, like both their narratives kind of combining for this third movie.
I actually think the overall fan reception, we've already seen the studio come out and say this and basically talk about the whole financial aspect of this. They care more about the vibe, like how culture feels about this movie. So for them, I think as long as we hit a break-even point, that's all they care about. Chainsaw said he's unsubscribing from Jake's channel.
Good job, Jordan.
Good job. Is it because I didn't give enough peanut M&Ms? Is that it?
By the way, I reached out to our friend over here at Glimmercast. Is it Raya or Raya?
That's Raya.
Raya. And hopefully they'll be able to join us on a stream soon. So
hell
yeah. So I might have to add him to the chat, to the group chat. Just ignore everything that Paigey says. You'll be fine. Exactly. All right. let's go through some super chats quickly. Oh, actually, no, I think we're caught up on super chats. I had this one here. Let's talk about this for a second, then we're going to talk about Lex. So I bookmarked this because I didn't know how to respond to it because it does make sense. It kind of goes into what 3Dub was saying about super hearing and stuff. There's a big plot hole in Superman. Why couldn't Superman with his X-ray vision see Ultraman's face? He should have known that long before that Ultraman is a clone.
I have an out for that. Lead.
Okay. Well, not
lead
in the black
mask.
suit.
Lead mask.
Even in the black suit?
Lead, yeah. Lead everything. Because Lex like literally like he has been watching Superman constantly. He knows every aspect of him. So he would know that lead, he can't see through lead.
Right,
So
right. But they didn't establish it in the movie though. That's the problem.
I mean, true.
That's why I think that's why a lot of people have mentioned some of these things is because the movie didn't explicitly tell us. But I actually think, and love it or hate it, I think James Gunn is saying I'm not going to take people's competence for granted with this film. I'm just going to assume that they know these things. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Anyway,
that's one of those things though with Superman. It's like if you start taking account every time he's not able to do, or he's not doing something that he should be able to, you're gonna really struggle writing any villain for Superman. It's just like it's anyone. Like you could do the same thing for like Superman and Lois and like John Henry Irons. Like why couldn't he see through that suit? Like it's
right.
I don't like. Yes, it's a plot hole, but like it's a plot hole that doesn't bother me.
Like Chainsaw, I've literally asked you every time you're in the chat if you want to join us, and then you disappear.
Join us. Join us.
I don't know why you're gonna go react to my stuff.
But
no, I mean, like if you're gonna have it there, like Darren said, if you're gonna have it to where you're nitpicking every time one of his powers isn't used, just because he has all of those powers doesn't mean he's constantly using.
He's not using them. Yeah.
So okay, before we talk about Lex, let's talk about Ultraman quickly because it's not much to this character. So Ultraman is literally just an imperfect clone of Superman that basically follows all of Lex's orders. He doesn't really have much of his own thoughts because he's been trained to listen to Lex. I thought this was a really cool way to show brains over brawn in the terms of like how he fights Superman without putting Lex in one of his Lexo suits. I thought this was a really smart thing to do.
They probably want to build up to that.
Yeah. However, one of the things I was excited about, and I've argued with people about this, but let me live in my fanfic for a moment. So I believe at the end when he's fighting Ultraman and Ultraman gets sucked into a black hole, I want to believe that he goes to Earth too.
I've heard this,
and that he becomes like the actual Ultraman.
I've heard this theory.
I mean, technically, that would be Earth 3. Never mind.
Well, I mean, I don't know the continuity of this universe.
Kidding.
Yeah. I don't know the continuity of this universe.
But like, that would be such a good like crime syndicate setup for like a Justice League. Like, I would love Justice League to fully do that. Like, do like Crisis on Two Earths kind of thing. And maybe it's too early to do multiverse stuff, but that would be an option. But also, I think Bizarro is also an option. Although, like, I feel like people like us are going to be like, well, Superman Lois kind of.
Yeah, I don't want.
I was about to say, I've seen this before.
I think that's okay, but I don't want that because we've already had that.
Yeah, with like Doomsday. Yeah.
I would much rather, like, later on, imagine this, we're like 6-7 years down the road, and something major happens. Maybe not a crisis event, maybe something else. And all of a sudden, we see this person fly through the portal and they land. And it is that same Superman suit with the U on it, and it's Ultraman, and you see, Superwoman fly through, and all the characters from the Crime Syndicate come over. I think that would be very compelling, in my opinion.
We're gonna have somebody stand there cheering, going, "Ultraman, you did so good!"
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could also set it up so that Ultraman, even though they're the Crime Syndicate, they're seen as the heroes on their Earth.
Yeah.
They save the Earth.
Yeah, because that would be just like they did in Timverse, where you had that kind of evil Justice League that a good amount of people saw as good on that Earth. Like, what were they called? The Justice Lords? Is that what they were called?
Yeah.
Either way.
Sort of Either way, he definitely comes back as a villain. Like there's no reality where we don't do some kind of twist on the thing, and also like it fits, I think, for a sequel narrative. If you want to do that for number 2 or number 3, I think it'll probably be number 3 because I have someone else I'd pick for number 2. But like, I do think it fits the like narrative of this movie of like they try to make Superman the villain. Like it's like, oh yes, you came down here to destroy us, and it's like, no, I'm not. But other people like me are going to do that. If that's
Right.
Zod, if that's Bizarro, like there's going to be that where like you
I just had an idea, though.
kind of lied to us, and like you are here to kind of hurt us kind of narrative.
I just had an idea. This wouldn't be something that they've done yet in live action, technically. What if they end up using this clone, this version that we see later on? What if he later becomes Cyborg Superman?
I mean, that's a possibility too.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Just
that is a
saying.
possibility
Dean Cain
too.
up in here.
Oh, God. No, not Cyber Attack Superman.
Chainsaw says, "I can't wait to meet Evil Chainsaw in this universe." All right, so we have here from Cameron a $5 super chat. Which with this, I think we've hit our goal. So,
Yay.
remind me in 30 minutes to put the poll up. So
Okay.
30 minutes.
30
Do not
minutes.
forget.
I won't forget.
Did you see Screen Rant did an article talking to Zolo about the Blue Beetle animated? Yeah, what's happening with that, by the way? I didn't see the whole article. Did anybody see that?
I didn't see the article, but I know a couple months ago they said they were like in early productions on it, which that seems like a show that's going to kind of go at its own pace, right? Like it doesn't like I don't think that show is going to be like unless he's part of Teen Titans, but like it doesn't seem like he's going to be like incredibly tied to the main narrative that they're telling. And I think it's just going to be like, well, when it's out kind of thing.
I'm trying to see.
But I'm excited for it. What's you eating, Jake?
Screen Rant. Okay.
Oh.
What you eating, Jake?
Oh,
Anything good?
a little charcuterie plate in front of me.
I'm hungry.
I didn't eat much today, so this is my very, very late dinner.
Got salad.
There you go.
What does it say here?
Yes, Tony, I want to see John Henry Irons also. And I
Oh, that'd
think
be awesome.
now that we've seen how Superman and Lois can handle the character, I think that needs to be the standard.
And you know who you have to cast, right?
Shaq!
Yes.
So it says here, Screen Rant also checked in about the Blue Beetle TV show since the actor's gotten to work with the animated medium. It says here, the universe is cracked open. Pandora's box is open, for lack of a better word. I love the animation medium. I love getting to continue and explore and try my best to fit this character. Having already done Blue Beetle, I know the character, I know the voice now. I'm excited to see him in the actual format of animation, to see what stories we can tell, what we can't do in live action. Some of my favorite stories, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Young Justice, and Studio Ghibli stuff. I think there's so much more creatives are pulling from. I'm excited how Blue Beetle fits in. So that's it. No date there. I will say this though. I think due to just the overall ticket sales for that movie, like the box office for that movie, the animated thing is probably the last place we're going to see him unless there's like a group movie, most likely.
Yeah. I think there's a world where you can maybe build your way back up to doing some kind of movie if he becomes a fan favorite, right? Like, let that animated show come out and let that speak for itself. Then throw him in like Teen Titans, and then if people fall in love with the character again, be like, okay, Blue Beetle Reborn or some other kind of thing.
I am Two Fly Cam, $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Zatanna versus Raven, who wins? I'm gonna say Raven.
I'm probably gonna say Raven.
Raven.
Yeah, but
I like Zatanna more as a character, but
agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Dreamcast for Wally West. I don't really have one, to be honest.
So help
Grant
me God.
Gustin.
So help me God. If someone says the kid from Riverdale, so help me God.
Oh gosh.
Like fucking 30 or 40.
I think Wally West actor is going to be someone in their 20s.
I mean, someone new. I want someone that I've never heard of.
Have it be an unknown.
I want to point out they're trying to keep production costs down, so it's not going to be a big name actor. It's going to be somebody that's up and coming that doesn't have a big ticket price.
Because like for Superman, probably the biggest name in that movie was Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. I want that for all these characters, man. Like again, like if it's someone I know, that's fine. But like I don't want it to be some big star. Like I know for Raven, everyone's like Jenna Ortega, she should be Raven. It's like
They're fan
no,
casting her for
no,
everything.
Yeah,
no.
Nicholas Hoult made $2 million for the
Yeah.
movie. He was the highest paid actor on the entire cast.
Which is very Lex Luthor.
Yeah. And then you just compare that to what RDJ is making in these next 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, if you get an up and coming actor and get them locked into like a 10-year contract, they can't negotiate too much on an increase until that contract is up. So,
I do wonder though, like by the end of his run as Superman and Lex Luthor, if David will then be more popular than Nicholas and will eventually be paid more than him because like anyone playing Superman is going to become like world famous, you know, like especially if he's going to be doing this for 10 years, you know,
world infamous in some cases.
I mean, look at like Henry Cavill, like, you know, like say what you want, but that was like, that's what really like made him famous.
I mean, all the roles he got was from being in Man of Steel, basically.
Yeah.
So it says here, I think the next $5 super chat from Cody. Thank you, Cody. I think the next Superman movie is Superman and Supergirl because it makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, after Supergirl comes out?
Yes. Yeah.
So Superman and Supergirl team up movie.
100% agree.
I would much rather that than any other Superman with somebody else, like especially Batman.
As long as you do the relationship better than what they did in Superman Unbound, because I feel like Clark just hated Kara in that movie.
And someone on Twitter, it may be even someone like in the chat mentioned to me on Twitter, but like they were like, it makes sense, especially since they're probably going to want Crypto back in the marketing for Superman 2.
They can keep Crypto in the movie because it'll be Supergirl.
Because Supergirl will be there with him. Yeah.
That would be a perfect opportunity to maybe bring in a crossover villain for both of them, someone that they have to fight together.
Brainiac, I think.
Exactly. That is the first name that popped in my head when I read Cody's message here. For sure. Thank you for the super chat, Cody. All right, so let's talk about Lex. That's the next character in my sheet here.
I just want to say that Brainiac could work, especially if you take the Injustice 2 route with Brainiac.
Yeah.
And I also think, like, not go off track, but like, I also think there's a big story here about like propaganda and the like negativity of like media and like artificial intelligence, and I feel like that is such a great trend.
And they could also address the message from Jor-El with the two of them together. So they could cover that as well. Like she could say, "Look, the reason why I do this is because I drink my cares away," and blah blah blah. And they could cover. I'd be okay with that. All right, so Lex Luthor in this movie, I've heard a lot of people who either think it's good or great. I haven't heard a lot of people complaining about it. Like no one being serious anyway.
This is the first time Lex has actually cussed in a movie where he basically calls Superman a piece of shit, alien.
Yes. So let me talk about the pros for me for Lex. I love that he utilized his intelligence to take on Superman. I thought that was really good. We haven't seen a Lex like that in a long time. And so I appreciated what they were doing with him in Ultraman. I think Nicholas really did pull from Hackman and Rosenbaum. Like you could see that in this role for me personally. So I felt like he nailed that as well. He was a little bit more ruthless than the Lexes I've thought about in the past in terms of like what he was willing to do. Let's go that route. I want you guys to give your opinion on it, talk openly about it, but what do you think about like because he literally shoots a guy in the head to try and like get Superman to reveal information. How do we feel about the ruthlessness of this Lex, that he's willing to sacrifice people, that he's doesn't care about creating a spatial rift in the city if it means he can escape and get away? Like is this the kind of Lex that we feel like moving forward is going to be good for the DCU?
I think it's interesting because typically it's not that we never get these kind of Lexes, because I think we do. Like I think, you know, we've seen many versions like this, but I think the thing that's interesting is he is already at a 10, right? Normally Lexes start at like maybe a 5 or a 6, and we see them ramp up, like, you know, our Superman Lois Lex was like willing to like kill all of Smallville if it was to get the like Lois Lane,
Right.
but he started down here and we saw
Right.
and we saw why, right?
And he reached that point because he had nowhere else to go. Essentially.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like most of these Lexes we've seen in the last couple of years, if it's like a Rosenbaum or whatever, like we kind of see where it stems from, if it's from revenge or anger, and like we see why this one does it, but it's more so a lot of just like, well, I'm just jealous, I'm just angry, and that there's that from the get-go, and I think there is something very, very comic booky about that, where it's not like, well, I need to have this deep backstory of why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, I guess I wanted a little bit of more depth, just the littlest push, and I think he's pretty perfect for me, but I do think sometimes he is a little much to handle at times. I like what they were going for, and I'm curious to see kind of where he goes next, right? Because like this is like where I imagined he'd be movie 3. Like I thought he'd kind of be like on like in the middle, being like, I'm evil, but the world won't see it yet. It's like, oh no, he tried to destroy the city. He kept his like partners in jail cells.
And now everyone knows. By the time we get to the end of the movie, everyone knows he's evil. Like he's out into the world. So
for me, he started like at 7. Like he was nuts. But
7?
Yeah, he was nuts.
That's still very high. Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's 2 more than 5. But he's he started like basically like using the government to bring Superman down, and then when he got that, you saw him go unhinged. And then he went completely nuts when he was going 1A. Basically, that was when he lost it completely.
At first I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh man, now we can't do like this like President Luthor storyline. I was like, you know what? Actually, yes, we can. Criminals become presidents all the time.
Because the truth is, they could run on that. Like, well, I got convicted, but I'm still here to change the world, make the world a better place.
They locked me up, but they can't keep me quiet.
My only like criticism is actually, well, I like the scene when I saw it, but I get the reference to it is the Loki, just like basically grabbing Loki and just like whacking him. That was basically Crypto.
Oh yeah, at the end of the movie. Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of that scene personally.
So did you not like it tonally, or you just didn't like the violent part of it? Like what
I think it just kind of threw off the pacing of the scene. Like it was a very serious, emotional scene for like your climax of the movie, and it's kind of thrown off by a joke. Which, like, I like a lot of this movie's humor, but I do think that's one of the issues I have with this movie. It's like, its jokes are fine, but to where they're placed sometimes throws off your kind of pacing.
I was telling 3Dub that I don't think all of them landed correctly.
Yeah.
That's the issue. I also said, and you missed this, Darren, earlier, but I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt like the movie could have helped the movie to have like another 15 or 20 minutes
100%.
runtime.
Yeah, 100%.
And because I felt like some of the things could have landed more if we would have been given like an extra few minutes in certain scenes, personally.
Yeah,
Agreed.
The movie does move very fast.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I actually do think the pacing for what it is actually kind of surprisingly good for the most part. Like, I was expecting it to have really bad pacing with all the characters that they had in there. So, like, I think the pacing itself worked for me. I think what didn't, though, is I think there's a lot of characters that needed a lot more to work with.
It was it's kind of funny. Usually you get a movie like with slow pacing, fast pacing, like a mix of all the pacings. Well, this one was consistently fast.
Yeah, and like I think like for what it is, I think they do a good job with it. Like I think it could have been a lot worse in terms of pacing with how much they had to do and what they had to get done. I thought again it's very well done. It just I agree with you. It could have used 15, 20 more minutes.
I would say 15 at the least. Like I feel like that the mandate to make the movie this length was probably it came down from like the studio executives. Like they didn't want it to be over 2 hours.
I don't know if you've already talked about this. I'm gonna send you a toy that they have for this movie that's not in the movie whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I know what this is.
That I saw that today. I was like, there's a lot that was left on the cutting room table, I think.
Yeah, there's a good amount that you can tell was cut.
Is it? Are you sending it here in private chat?
Here, I'll just image file really quickly.
All right.
Yep.
Oh, Fortress of Solitude battle set.
So there's some kind of
that
like
Yeti thing.
Yeti creature.
like a security system, maybe. Like, I like or Superman. It looks like Superman's fighting this thing down here. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Maybe it's like a training simulation.
Oh,
Maybe.
Like
I don't know
he's
anything.
training
I
crypto.
don't think did we look at this before? Or is this relatively a new review?
I don't know. I just saw it going around my timeline today, and some people were being stupid about it. It's like, oh, they cut so much out of the movie, and they showed that like Mr. Terrific playing with crypto scene as well.
Wasn't
Like,
that
well,
a
that was an
commercial
ad.
for like
That was an
that's
ad,
like-
yeah.
it was like
Yeah, that was an ad.
pet treats or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I don't even know what this would be based on
Me
what we
neither.
saw in the movie. Do you think it was ever put in it, or it was an idea that got cut, or what do you think?
I don't know, because there was a lot of scenes, which I actually think is one of the positives of it, but there's a lot of scenes where Superman is just doing things like in the city and saving people, which I think is a positive. But like maybe they were like, this is one too many, right? Because you have you have the fight at the start, and then the fight with the giant kaiju, and then the fight with Traffic when he's like saving the squirrel. So like maybe this thing also attacks the city at some point, and they're like,
I mean,
pacing
it wouldn't be the
wise,
first
it didn't
time-
work.
Even
it
though
wouldn't be
we
the first time that they've used something like this for official merch and then not had it in the movie at all, because Deadpool and Wolverine did the same thing. So
It happens a
They had
lot,
that-
yeah.
yeah,
I choose to believe that even though we didn't see it physically in the movie, I think he was still there somewhere.
Probably. Maybe they'll save it for a sequel or something.
All right, so before we get into, because we're heading into the home stretch for the Superman discussion, these are the choices for the poll. Since we did hit the goal, thank you guys so much. We hit the goal for the night. Here we
You
go.
did it early.
I did, because we were talking about something. I had a chance to do it. Top 5 cartoon villains of all time. This could be
Ooh.
TV shows or movies.
Hmm.
Very broad one. Top 5 worst 2010 movies. So anything from 2010 to 2019.
Oh boy! All right.
Oh,
worst
if-
movies.
if only you would have said 2000s in there, and then my least favorite movie of all time would have made the list.
Can we get some
top
Sharknado in there, Jake?
top 5 underrated comic book films. So these are
Underrated.
your favorite comic book movies that are not highly rated. So things
interesting.
that people overlook. And this is any era. It doesn't matter if it's like the 80s, the 90s, whatever.
That's a good one.
And the last one is top 5 worst Arrowverse supporting cast members.
Oh boy! Oh, okay. Oh god damn it! All right.
Well, now I know that that underrated Marvel movie or comic movies one's not going to win, because Arrowverse usually wins these things.
I can't wait for
Okay.
us all to do Cecile.
Honestly,
Uh,
Darren, bad as she wasn't my first thought.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
save that. Save it. Don't
Yep.
say it. Save it. Let's see. I had some notes over here. Let's see. All right. So let's go over. There are 4 things that I hear as criticism for this movie. I want to mention them, and then we're going to talk about them and see how we feel about it. So the big one that I'm seeing is the pacing of the movie and the overcrowded cast, like the amount of characters that we have in the film. People are saying that the film feels overstuffed at times, and there's too many characters and plot lines going on that don't need to be in the movie. Just go around here and say agree, disagree, and what you think about that.
I disagree. I think basically it was the halfway through the movie we finally saw the Justice Gang. I mean, the other half, it was basically just Lois and Clark and the Daily Planet. They basically separated the clunches. So basically the cluster. They basically did part 1 was Lois and Clark, part 2 was the Justice Gang, and part 3 was the Lex Luthor stuff.
Mhm.
And I think every time I don't think it was that crowded in the scenes. Obviously they needed people in cells to kind of give the impression that Lex is unhinged
Mhm.
and will lock up his ex-girlfriends for just like randomly
We're gonna get to those characters. We haven't talked about it yet. I'm saving that for the end. We're gonna get to them.
But yeah, it felt like we needed those background characters to make the scene feel like it's there, alive, present, and there's more to him than just Superman. Clusters. I meant clusters.
What's the question? Like it just like feels too crowded?
Right. There's too many characters, and therefore the movie feels overstuffed. That's one of the big criticisms.
I guess I would say I half agree. Like I don't think it necessarily feels overstuffed because I actually think how they pace all these characters out are pretty good. But it just goes to what I was already saying: is there is not enough time for a lot of these characters that I wish had more time.
I actually think the criticism about the amount of characters and the pacing both come down to the fact that there just wasn't enough time in the movie.
Not enough time. Yeah, like I honestly, and like I'm glad I know why they did, but like I would honestly sacrifice some of the Justice Gang stuff for more Daily Planet because I came out of the movie a little disappointed because that was the thing I was most excited for was the dynamic of Lois and Clark, of Clark and Jimmy, of Perry White at all, of Cat Grant at all. Yeah. That stuff is almost non-existent here, and I'm not mad about it, but I am a little disappointed about it because that was the stuff I was.
I mean, we only
very
how sad is it that Wendell Pierce goes from playing a nobody judge character in Thunderbolts, yet he gets more to do in that movie than he does in this one, playing Perry fucking White.
Yeah,
I mean, in Man of Steel, we only saw Clark Kent in the Daily Planet once.
That's not a good thing. It being in something else doesn't make it a positive. That's a criticism for both.
I mean, we had more Clark Kent in this movie than we did in Man of Steel.
Yeah, somebody been pulling that comment up on the screen. But yeah, so before Jake, did you have anything to add on that? I was going to get my thoughts on it, or about the overstuffed characters, or anything like that.
So I agree that some characters feel kind of overbloated in here. I don't think there's too many plot lines going on. Like there are characters that don't really add much. Like I said, Hot Girl barely did anything in this movie. And I think just would have worked better in our own project because, especially with all the different world building you can bring with that character, there's just so many unanswered questions that you would get that you could further explore in her own project. But as far as other like characters, the other ones, like I said, there weren't any other characters that I don't think should have not been in there. But like Darren was saying, I think the Daily Planet and honestly just the world building of Metropolis as a whole was very lacking. Like because this is one of my favorite things that comic movies do, and this is not going to be a surprise to anybody who knows me, but I'm going to use this as an example. When you look at things like the Raimi Spider-Man movies, how New York is a character in those movies, and you see, what the everyday citizens are doing, and which this movie does a little bit too, where you see the everyday citizens come to the hero's aid. This movie does that a little bit, but there are a lot of moments where the movie just didn't, or the city just didn't really feel like it was important or that it mattered really. Like you care about some of the characters, but not really. It doesn't really feel like there's stakes for the
and you know what? I think that has to do with the pacing of the movie.
Yeah.
I think the movie was a little bit rushed because they had to there wasn't enough time. I think if we had more time, we'd see more instances of Superman and Clark interacting with people in the city, and we just didn't have enough time for that. Yeah. Which I don't know if that was Peter and James's decision or if that was like David Zaslav's decision. I don't know.
I don't know if you could say that there was not enough time for it because, like there are movies that have the same or less run times that manage to accomplish that. It just depends on what they're writing.
But then we're talking about like character balance, right? So then it goes into that. Like you said, Hawk Girl didn't even need to be there. So if Hawk Girl didn't need to be there, then that's a factor you could take out of the movie to give more time to something else.
Right.
Now that I think about it, I kind of I have a little more critique with the whole like Clark Kent giving himself interviews with Superman. And
that's a classic Superman thing. That's
like Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
It's more about the Lex being like, I'll kill the guy that gives you interviews, and that's Clark Kent. What's his name? Clark Kent. Basically, and he has him right there.
I thought that was funny.
I want to comment on that, what you just said, but right here, Cody says the Peacemaker cameo didn't need to be in there. It felt random. Is that the DCU one or the one from the DCEU? I don't know.
We'll find out. You know what? While it was happening at first, I was a little bit like, why would they be interviewing Peacemaker? He knows nothing. He's not an expert on this topic. And then I remembered literally this week, Dean Cain was on Geeks and Gamers. Yeah. And it was like, it was almost perfect. It was almost like making fun of something they didn't even know was going to happen yet. I was like, you know what?
I'll tell you what was perfectly timed. I could not have written this better if you gave me 1,000 tries. So I went and saw this movie with my parents and sister. You know, we all got together and just went and watched it. And just long story short, I could tell my dad was not having the greatest time with this movie. And just right as soon as they start the interview with Peacemaker is when he gets up to walk out of the theater to go to the bathroom. It's like, I could not have written the timing of that better. I was
like, is he not a Peacemaker fan?
I don't even think he's seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to sort of piggyback off of what 3Dub was saying, I find it hard to believe that his identity can be kept secret for so long based on like people like Lex knowing so much about him with facial recognition technology and all of that seem to be readily available in this world. So
that also don't work anymore.
Well, I also want to jump into the hypnoglasses thing. Was that real or was that a gag?
That was actually real.
It seems like James Gunn is very passionate that is the canon answer for it.
So the hypnoglasses, that wasn't a conspiracy theory. That was like a real thing.
It seems like it. Yeah, like Lois knew about it. It seems.
And also, I for the longest time I couldn't find where it was referenced in the comics because he said it was from the comics. So I was about to be pissed and be like, James Gunn is a freaking liar. But no, I found it was in the Silver and Bronze Age.
But I'm just wondering if, like, I thought she was playing along with him. I didn't think that it was real. Like, I got the impression, you know how like when somebody says something that's not true, but you're trying to pretend that you know about it. Like if somebody goes, well, doesn't everybody know this? And you're like, yeah, of course I know that. That was the impression I got, but that may have been me just not wanting them to be real.
I think
because that's the one thing I don't want in the movie of the stupid hypnoglasses. I hate that.
I think they kind of like hinted at it when they were in the apartment where he goes and says, you know, thanks for playing along. Like that was pretty great that, you know, like you're bantering back and forth and all that, and she goes, well, I wasn't acting.
The other thing I want to talk about is the pocket dimension, like the monkeys being trained to
super
shit post for Lex Luthor. I thought that was a unnecessary gag in the movie.
I didn't like that at all.
Because I'm like, okay, so, and tell me, okay, chat, check me on this. You guys check me on this. So these monkeys, I'm thinking too much about it already. I'm telling you, this is overthinking. So the monkeys can tweet and stuff from inside the pocket dimension?
Lex must have a really good service provider.
How does that work?
Pocket internet.
Because the thing we established with Mr. Terrific that once they go in there, that's it. There's no connection with the outside world, or he would see that. So how are the monkeys doing that from inside
maybe they got some information from Brainiac?
But still, Mr. Terrific would have seen it. He made it very clear that once Clark arrived at that location and he went in, there was literally nothing. It was just nothing connected to it. It was like completely broken off from reality, right? So he went there to investigate it. If there was any sort of information coming in and out of that spot, Mr. Terrific would have been able to see it. Like it would have been the internet. He would have been hacking the internet essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was actually in the film, but apparently someone screenshot one of what the monkeys said, and it basically said that Man of Steel was better. This Superman is shit, kind of like that. But it was on the computer. I don't know if it's legit, but it makes me want to go watch it again just to be sure. Well,
go ahead.
I kind of have two plans of minds about it because I didn't inherently like that scene because I do think it kind of undercuts a little bit the current status of Superman in the world. Like I really liked real people actually having an issue with Superman and being like, well, no, he's this immigrant. We don't trust him. He's dangerous. And I think doing it this way does kind of undercut that emotional hit a little bit. And I did want to see more of the...
Basically saying the hate was manufactured and it wasn't real. Right.
But on the flip side of that, it is a story about propaganda, right? And I do think that is a very, very true thing. And there is a real, especially right now in America, when it comes to these very real world topics, there is a very real issue about propaganda and what information, like where is it coming from? And like my friends were like, oh yeah, like I really like the scene because it's this take on like what's really happening right now.
But like, you know what? I would say, okay, so but let me push back on that a little bit. I don't disagree with you, but one of the complaints that a lot of these like hate channels have is when there's unnecessary things put in these movies specifically for political and social reasons. I cannot defend that scene as anything other than that.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is.
But I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Not necessarily, but I would say that it does bring into question if the propaganda was working, then they wouldn't need to show the movie. People would feel that way about Superman. You know what I mean?
was laughing at Cangrass.
Yeah. So I didn't like that scene. But to speak to Chris here, you're not going to question a 200-foot kaiju, but internet connection, because it was a plot point in the movie. Just like what I said. If the monkeys were capable of tweeting out and smearing Superman's name from the pocket dimension, then Mr. Terrific would have been able to track what's going into the pocket dimension because there's something coming out of the pocket dimension. But that's not the case. When the pocket dimension shut down, the big deal was it's completely closed off from the world. They can't leave it open. So where were these monkeys tweeting all this stuff at? So like, this is their lore. This is their lore. The 200-foot kaiju, we understood what that was. Started out as a little monster and it grew up big and they had to fight it. It worked within the lore of the movie. The monkey thing was weird. But look, I'm not going to say that it didn't serve a purpose in the sense of like pushing propaganda. I understand that part. But it also goes to show that a lot of people that complain about them shoving things into movies for political and social reasons, it's there, right? So we have to accept that. I didn't like it anyway. I just thought it was a dumb gag that didn't need to be in the movie. Just me personally.
Dan, you have a Superman bucket.
Yeah, but I'm not. So I spent $30 on that. I'm not using that as a hat. I also do like, to push back on it. Once again, like I do like what it says about Lex though. Like I like that he's willing to spend millions of dollars just to make Superman look bad when he could just get like.
Well, I agree.
An employee. Yeah. Like he could.
But I also want to point out the monkeys. This is the visual representation of this, right? This is James Gunn calling all of the propagandists that talk shit on the internet, the trolls, monkeys, trained monkeys with no brains of their own, basically. That was the message that he was saying with that. So take from that what you will. I don't either. Like I said,
they were hardwired.
Yeah.
I'm about to tear apart every single one of these arguments. Oh, I'm about to tear him a new asshole. Oh yeah.
Which one?
Bring it, you sexy man. Come on.
Let's take it back to Peacemaker. And honestly, I kind of felt the same way. I laughed when I saw Peacemaker show up. But then my wife said, "Were you actually listening to what he was saying?" I said no because it's Peacemaker. I
couldn't see him. Sorry.
Yeah. So Peacemaker, they brought Peacemaker on because they know Peacemaker has no quarrels about what he does and whatnot. He literally sat there and said, I mean, I don't really think Superman I don't think he likes me because I have no problems with killing. He wants to save everybody. But me and the Justice Gang, we're not opposed to that in so many words. He literally got on there and said like, he's a Boy Scout. He's in so many words. He was saying, like, Peacemaker was literally on that guy's talk show after everything was coming out. Like he was saying, like Superman, he has a problem with people who want to do things their own way. He has a problem with. He wants to save everybody. He has a savior complex. He doesn't want to get his hands dirty. That's why he doesn't like me like that. That's why he doesn't want to deal with me because hey, I have no problem. If I kill you, I kill you. In so many ways, like in this world, it's well known that Peacemaker and all these other heroes are gonna do what they want to do. They're gonna do what they have to do. The Justice Gang has no quarrels with killing, which is why, honestly, this was news a month ago, which is why I don't get why people were so shocked when Hawk Girl literally dropped the president. The Justice
Yeah.
Gang has no problems with killing.
Yeah.
Like
Which
they said that it's in the book. It's literally in like their character bios. I think it was even something about that in the junior novel to some extent. They have no quarrels with killing. Yeah. So I get the Peacemaker bit. They needed another hero that was already established to put in there just for that random cameo spot.
Yeah. And that's so interesting, Lance. Sorry.
Go ahead. That's fine.
You just reminded me, like, if Peacemaker is going to have, say that DCU and DCEU Peacemaker, have the same, killing rules or whatever. Does anybody remember that bit in season 1 whenever he's making fun of Batman for putting all his enemies in jail?
Yeah.
DCEU Batman was a fucking murderer. That wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, but does he know that? Right? Like,
well,
like, what does the general public think of Batman?
Oh, they thought of him as a nut because he branded enemies and killed other ones. So he definitely left a mark on Gotham by that point. Yeah. Left a mark on a lot of people in Gotham.
You have to take everything though that he says with 1,000 grain of salt.
Right? I agree with that. I agree with that.
Everything he says, I don't think he's really thinking before he's talking. He's just spewing bullshit just out of his mouth instantly.
We're talking about Peacemaker, not Gunn, right?
Speaking of cameos, I thought it was very short. I thought we were going to see more of Maxwell Lord in the movie, but we only saw 2 seconds of him. Basically, I thought I knew Lex or something like that.
No, we'll see more of him in
he said, I'm actually meeting him in a couple weeks.
I wasn't too worried about seeing Maxwell Lord as one. I'm not really sold on Sean Gunn being Maxwell Lord.
Me neither.
Because I can't see him as the guy who kills Ted Cord later on. And honestly, I'm trying to figure out where they're going to go with that story because Blue Beetle is canon to this universe. And we know that Ted Cord is technically not dead. So I'm trying to see how all of that's going to work itself out.
I might give it to
someone else. Sean Gunn should have been instead? He should have been G. Gordon Godfrey instead.
No.
If he was going to be anybody, it should have been Godfrey.
You could get Tim Curry, ain't that his name? He would make a good Godfrey. He has the voice for it.
Does he now?
Dapper.
Yeah.
Doesn't say. Isn't Tim Curry retired?
Is he? I don't know. James Gunn is casting all senior citizens in this, so.
All right. So we're going to jump over to the next criticism they have because we got 3 more that I have compiled here.
There was not enough racism. What?
A lot of people were complaining about the CGI.
There was nothing wrong with the CGI, honestly. When you're complaining about the CGI, in my opinion, you're complaining about the camera lens that they use. Those type of camera lenses, the fish eyes and whatnot, it's gonna look odd because we're not used to seeing it.
Speaking of that, Jake, what did you think about? Because you said you didn't like the concept of the fisheye flying or whatever. What did you think of all that?
Oh shit! Here we go again. So no, I didn't like it when they did it. They did it way more than I'd like. A few of the flying sequences where you can see it from the side, and he's kind of flying off like this, and this is how the camera's aimed at him, and you can see. Where he's flying off towards something. That I don't mind, but when it looks like you're just staring at the actor with a GoPro, I really don't like that.
You are.
The one scene that we thought was...
they did it in Guardians 3, which is a gun movie. They did it in Black Adam. They did it in a number of other movies I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but it just doesn't look that good to me. Okay, here's why. Because it feels like it's an incomplete sequence, almost. It's like you're missing half of what's there. And even in shots where, you see him flying to something, you're at least able to
follow. I've been trying to kill this son of a bitch all day.
There you go. So you're able to follow where he's going at least. Whenever you see, shots from the side, whenever he's flying to something. You're able to at least follow where he is going. With those fisheye lenses, it's like they're constantly looking at something that you can't see, but it's like they're looking at something that you should be able to see in that shot, but you just can't. and this probably doesn't bother anybody else the way it bothers me, but I just don't like the way it looks.
Hey, Eric, can you blow up my face real quick?
See, dynamite or
Damn, Darren.
Jake, I mean this with all due respect.
Oh shit!
The hell are you talking about, man? I don't get it.
I know. I just don't like the way it looks. I'm sorry.
I don't disagree.
And I mean that's fine. But as I keep explaining over and over again, it looks weird because we're not used to it. This type of flying technology, literally, they just started doing this with superheroes recently. We're used to how we're seeing Iron Man fly and Captain Marvel and other Supermans. Even with Superman and Lois, they utilized the cameras and the flying rigs from Man of Steel. They did that for a specific reason. James Gunn wanted this to look different. Honestly, I'm not going to be against the fact that Supergirl's flying sequences may look different. Every filmmaker has the different things that they want to do. But me personally, I thought it looked cool. I thought the hair effects looked really cool. I liked seeing him from the side. It gave a sense of urgency, especially in that moment of him blowing past Guy Gardner when he was like, I wonder how he even got the message. It gave that sense of urgency because of how fast he was flying. You literally did feel it. Yes, it looked awkward. I'm not gonna be obtuse and say that it didn't. Of course it looks awkward because we're not used to seeing that. It's always gonna look awkward. It looked awkward in Black Adam because The Rock has a big ass head. It looked awkward in Blue Beetle because the mask looked like plastic. It looked awkward in Guardians because
he's just like floating there.
Yeah, he's just like he was stiff as hell. He was stiff as hell, and James Gunn admitted that was one of the problems with Adam Warlock's flying scenes. Here, I think it got a little bit better, but all flying sequences are going to look different. If we want to talk about anybody's flying, let's talk about the fact that Nathan Fillion legitimately looked half the time like he was on wires.
Yeah,
the very first scene when he like took off to go towards the kaiju, I said, man, that looks bad. It looked like he was being held up. And then when he landed, a lot of the times it looked like he was being held up. I don't know if that's because, he was nervous about landing. I don't know, but that's the flying that irritated me the most. He looked weird.
That's fair. And like we all, like I said, like you said, it's going to be different because they're trying this out, and they're going to look awkward. And then at the end of the day, people will like those sequences, and some people won't. I don't really care if anybody likes them or not. Like, if you like them, fine. If you don't like them, fine. They just weren't for me. I'm not going to shit on anybody for liking them. I just didn't.
Speaking of the flying, wasn't there like a scene that was supposed to be cut, and yet we did see it? The barrel roll scene where he just like barrel rolls and flies.
No, he said the scene of the face was cut. They did edit over the because it wasn't finished. So they did edit over it. The barrel roll, he didn't say he was cutting the barrel roll altogether.
Honestly, the big part of the flying that annoyed me more, or I don't know about more, but along with those fisheye lenses was...
Couldn't see his ass.
That annoyed you, not me. But all the flying in the third act when he's fighting the clone, and it's just like rolling over and then rolling over, and it's just like, okay, top. It's like them constantly changing perspectives. I don't know why that really...
So what's interesting here is Anthony, who's been a member for 58 months. Thank you so much, Anthony.
How many months is that?
58 months.
Yeah.
Do the math in your head.
It's a couple of years.
It's almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Jesus. And don't tell me to do the math in my head. I didn't pass math. I can't even help my kids with their math homework.
He didn't pass math because he was doing too much meth.
Oh. Henry Braham is a cinematographer for Superman, has been the cinematographer for a lot of James Gunn's movies, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, things like that. I don't think that his work looked as polished in this one as it has in previous films. I don't know what it was.
I don't think it looked bad. I'm
not saying it's bad. I'm saying, like, how something looks good, but then there's that extra level of polish you can get on something. It doesn't look like this was like it went through that last cycle of polish.
Was it Bram in all three Guardians movies?
I don't know. Let me check.
I don't think you want all your films to look the same either. At least
he
it
did.
did.
He did Guardians of the
least it
Galaxy
Flash.
1, the Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Yeah, I think.
Wait. So he didn't do 3?
I don't see it listed here. No.
Interesting.
Oh.
I think cinematography with his movies are very hit or miss. I think they either look incredible or they look dodgy, right? Like there are shots in like I think back to Suicide Squad. I think Suicide Squad is one of the prettiest comic book movies of all time.
I agree.
But then there's other shots where it's like, ooh, that looks a little dodgy there. And I think Superman is no different. There are some gorgeous shots in here, but there's a lot of it that like visually I was like, as someone who's not a filmmaker, I'm like, oh, that shot kind of looks a little funny. Maybe there could have been a second pass on that or something.
Yeah.
But also not enough. I'm like, he needs to be fired. Get him out of here.
Right. So, all right. Let's very quickly a couple more of these criticisms, and then we're gonna kind of wrap things up here. People talk about it's got a lot of shallow emotional scenes in it that don't really lead to anything. Many of the characters don't have much interaction with each other, and there's some narrative leaps in the movie, especially at the end when Superman somehow convinces the Justice Gang to go to Baravia, even though they're Maxwell Lord team. We don't really get to see them make that change in the movie. It just sort of happens out of nowhere.
Henry, I mentioned. Oh, sorry.
Henry did do Guardians Volume 3.
Okay, I was just looking at the list that I had in front of me. So,
I would agree on. I would partially agree. I think a lot of its emotional notes do hit hard for me, but there are some things that I kind of wish there was more of a through line on. I said this on Council. I wanted a little bit more of the people's take on everything happening, right? This is a story about the people feeling betrayed about Superman turning on them, and oh my gosh, this right. how could you, Superman?
Never got to see
we never see the effect of it. We also never see the consequences. By the end, everyone's like, oh yeah, Superman,
because all of it happens while these catastrophic events are going on. So.
Yeah, I wanted some more of that emotional being. I kind of wanted that to be kind of the main core of the story. I 100% agree with the whole Justice Gang thing. I think the point of that scene is that Superman's biggest superpower is that he inspires people to step up. So I think them showing up there because Superman can't is good, but we never have a moment of them being you know what, we need to stand up. I think there's a shot of maybe Superman on TV struggling against him and them being nah, fuck this, let's go help him and save the people. Then I would have really liked that.
They do that. They set up what you think is going to be one of those moments whenever Lois is trying to convince them to go save him, and then they have Mr. Terrific where he's going to go do it, and he goes, "Oh no, I'm only doing this just to piss off Green Lantern, not because this guy needs my help or because I owe him one or whatever, or because the world needs."
It wasn't an altruistic reason; it was a selfish reason.
Pissed me off, and
so. Parker here says that the kids did put up the Superman flag. I think that goes back to what Darren was saying was the inspiration fact of Superman as a character in this world, inspiring people, even people who are facing devastation from an army coming over or whatever. The issue is though that Superman didn't show up, and so even though he inspired the Justice Gang to do something, it all gets sort of muddled in that moment. I liked it, but I do understand the criticism of it. So, all right. The last thing here, actually, no, let's do this. We had a chat from Cody that I wanted to talk about, and then we're going to talk about Jimmy Olsen and Eve Tessmacher. So Cody says, can we talk about Rick Flag Sr.'s role in this? Because how did he go to that after Creature Commandos? This bothered me a little bit.
Yeah. You know what else bothered me about this? You all didn't notice that the lady that was in the room with them is the lady who knocked out Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. That's interesting. So first of all, people were complaining about the hair color. That's probably the most superficial thing. It does break immersion a little bit, but that isn't even the worst part. My issue was we go from somebody who was on Creature Commandos that learns over the course of that season to feel a bit more sympathy towards people. He seems sympathetic towards aliens and creatures and metahumans and stuff like that as the course of the show goes on. And then we get to this movie and all of a sudden he's back to like, take out aliens and do what the government tells us and stuff like that. This is like a completely different personality in my mind. Am I the only one that noticed this?
No.
Yes, because at first he wasn't going for that at first when Lex first approached him. The only reason he started going for it is the same reason why the whole world seemed to turn against Superman, is because of the cancel culture aspect.
But he has access to creature commandos. He could have called on them to come to help him do something. He just didn't even bother.
While that's true, they drank Lex's Kool-Aid. Lex said, let Planet Watch handle it because he wanted Superman himself. So he just turned him over. He has a position of power, but he's not in a position of power to say no.
We're forgetting that these people don't like Lex. They don't like him. Why would Rick Flag not do things, take it into his own hands when we saw in Creature Commandos? That's one of his character flaws. That's a character flaw of his.
We also don't know when Creature Commandos takes place exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to be like.
We know it's after Suicide Squad. We know it's after his son's already dead. But this could take place
before
that.
Yeah.
But after Peacemaker.
I mean, maybe, but they said the only reason that Frank didn't dye his hair is because he was filming other things. So I'm assuming there was supposed to be like a through line on these movies or the shows in the movies. Well, I mean, look, this runs back into an issue that I brought up a couple of months ago. Is we're watching all of these things because we're fans of all of these things, right? So we're watching them. If you have something like a conflicting personality element of a character that doesn't carry through from another series, you're going to end up with stuff like this. Because we don't know. Does it take place before? Does it take place after? Was he an asshole government bootlicker before, and that's why he did this? And then he met the monsters and the aliens and all that, and he was okay with it at that point? Or was this after that, and it's a complete 180 of his character development from Creature Commandos? We don't know. Because there's no
see, Gunn, this is why you don't want to make all your projects feel standalone.
I think there's a big difference between the two characters.
I
don't notice a difference only because
well, explain why then.
because to me he had that conversation with that random whoever Cuz was. He was having that obviously everybody that was in that room is in a position of power. Excuse the hell out of me because I thought Rick Flag was going to end up being the director of Argus, but we know the lady that knocked out Amanda Waller is. But Rick Flag is probably like her next in command, I want to guess. I don't know. So if this is taking place after the events of Creature Commando season 1, maybe he learned from the fact that you got to think about it. He thought the princess was innocent and all of that. So maybe he is being more cynical. Yes, they don't like Lex. Yes, they don't want to listen to Lex. But Lex presented a good argument. No matter what somebody in a position of power in government does, if they agree with it or not, if you have a position of power, they have to go along with that. We should know that.
They don't have to.
They don't have to, but they're going to. We should know that better than anybody.
I completely disagree. I think Rick Flag was seen as like a very emotionally complex leader in Creature Commandos who was willing to put his life on the line for people that he cared about, to coming into Superman where he's just following somebody else's tails the whole time.
But Lex presented a good point, which could be a present threat. Do you really want to take a chance on a all-powerful?
Why would the government with access to Creature Commandos and Suicide Squad listen to Lex Luthor?
Because Lex Luthor.
Why did Batman listen to Lex Luthor too?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's also a good point. But what are the Creature Commandos gonna do to Superman?
What is Lex gonna do to Superman?
He did a lot.
But what I'm saying is they didn't know that. They didn't know that. Keep in mind, they didn't realize that the whole time Ultraman was masquerading as this fucking Baravian guy. They didn't know that. They had no idea that Lex was doing that. That was a separate thing. This is Lex showing up as a billionaire going, yeah, I got it under control. How? How does he have all of the stuff that happens to Superman with Lex's team happens after the government trusts him?
Darren, I feel like we're going to have someone come out of the chair again.
Think about it.
Yeah. Okay, and that's all fine and dandy, but even so,
when the government go, hey Lex, we've got superpowered creatures that can help you. Why don't you take some of our team since you don't have anybody? Oh wait, he's got a Superman in his pocket.
That's why they didn't say. He presented all of that information when he first went to talk to them, though. He gave them that information up front about the engineer.
So there just happens to be this Moravian Iron Man guy and Ultraman existing, and nobody in the government put 2 and 2 together. They just went with it.
Yeah, they just went with it. He showed up that one time and never showed up again. That was actually very strategic and genius on Lex's part.
Keep in mind, at this point, Lance, at this point in the movie, they said Superman had never lost a battle until that one battle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why it was a.
Where the fuck did this person come from? Why did Baravia have him? What I'm saying is there are so many loose ends to just assume.
No, it's not. Because
to assume that Rick Flag would go with this is crazy.
The president of Baravia already said that, oh, yeah, the Hammer, he's not really with us. That's like a vigilante. He's not.
So we have another person stronger than Superman flying around, but they've convinced you that Superman is the threat.
Yes.
How?
Is the government smart? No,
People
the Asian dude.
So your argument is that Rick Flag is stupid.
I'm not saying Rick Flag is stupid. The other dude is over Rick Flag.
Okay, so if Rick Flag is not stupid, why did he just go along with it and not question anything?
He did question it. He literally told Superman that.
You know what the reality is? He was a pointless character in the fucking movie. He could have been anybody.
He could have. He
right. So why include him?
Because they want that through line.
But there is no through line. We're establishing that right now.
It is a through line, though.
He doesn't have the same hair color, and he doesn't make like emotionally objective decisions.
We know why he doesn't have the same hair color, though. That doesn't matter.
They could have left him out. They could have left him out of the movie. He didn't even need to be there.
I'd argue
Peacemaker's not wearing the same helmet.
I'd argue he's pretty dumb in Creatures too. Like he thought with his dick that entire series.
Exactly. Eric's yelling about this, and he literally had sex with
still to me, they were not even the same characters except in name only. Tell me what did he do in Superman that reflects what he did in Creature Commandos?
He didn't do enough.
Superman on the spot.
He didn't do enough. Period for me to even like. I was like,
but see, that could be my argument on why he doesn't feel like Rick Flag. He is a replaceable character that has the consequence of him being there serves no purpose other than to make us question why this character exists there in that spot in the movie.
Think about how he ended up in Creature Commandos. Think about where he ended up at the end of Creature Commandos, in the hospital, beaten and bruised. That would change anybody. That would change anybody's perspective on things like that. Maybe
so that would make people ignore another more powerful unknown person flying around and just believe Lex that Superman is the biggest threat to the world. Somebody that's been doing good the whole time, but then this one random Iron Man Superman guy shows up fighting him and beating the shit out of him, and we're just going to ignore that completely.
Isn't that how like cancel culture normally works? Isn't that how cancel culture works?
So you would have me believe that they're just taking Lex's word for every single thing that he says and not even listening to Superman at all?
Let me bring up the whole thing with
Diddy got off.
Not Diddy. I'm talking about the whole. I'm still saying how cancel culture works. How cancel culture works. They brought up the James Gunn was posting a whole bunch of political stuff. Right. Those people that he was posting the political stuff about, the right wingers or whatever, they got mad. What did they do? Go dig up old tweets. Oh, Disney fires James Gunn on the spot. That's how cancel culture works.
Hold on. But this guy or whoever this person was beating the shit out of Superman, so it didn't matter what Superman did because they had someone more powerful than him. So it didn't fucking matter. That's my whole point. How can he be a threat if
powerful?
you have another person that can beat his ass every time he flies over there?
But they're saying that he was a threat because he inserted himself in something that he shouldn't have inserted himself in.
But that doesn't
from the
mean
get-go.
that you just listen to Lex Luthor. That's the next step.
Everybody listens to Lex.
Why?
Why? Because he's a charming billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, he's not hated yet, right? Like
he's not.
Kind of,
I mean,
I'm not saying he's hated. I'm not saying he's hated. I'm saying from a logical standpoint, I can believe that Lex has enough money to pull strings in the world and get things to happen that way. There are characters like Rick Flag and other characters in the movie that had no reason to listen to Lex or believe Lex. There are people in the Daily Planet that didn't believe Lex, which brings us to Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen has always felt like something was going on, and Eve Tessmacher was feeding him information about Lex Luthor.
Oh, that's just he was eating the box.
Jake, your audio is off.
That better?
Yes.
No.
Okay. That is one of the worst parts for me right there, is that the entire back half of the plot of this just hinges on a series of
There you go, Eric.
nude
There you
pics. The entire plot of this just hinges on a series of nude pics.
It wasn't nude pics. It was just
They were selfies, but
I know, but you get my point.
So look. Putting all that aside, one of my favorite characters in the movie, and we're going to be wrapping this up in a moment once we get through these two characters. One of my favorite characters in the movies was Jimmy Olsen, and the other one was Eve Tessmacher. I think they were so great in the movie. I enjoyed both of them. I can't really. Did you not like them, Darren?
I hated them.
No.
Okay. Hold on. We'll let you play your part.
I didn't like.
I really liked them.
He hated Eve because Eve was not white. So I'm lumping him in with Darren.
What?
I mean,
Excuse.
I'm lumping Darren
I
in
think
with
I
Jake.
think we're going to need clarification on that. I think so.
No.
So what did you not like about him? Go ahead.
I mean, I don't think Jimmy had anything to do. Like, his entire personality revolved around a bit. He was a bit character in here. This bit that he's this kind of ladies' man, and all the all the women's like him, and blah blah blah. And I think that works better if he had anything, like literally anything else whatsoever. And I think if you I don't know, I think the fact that Clark has a bigger dynamic with Guy Gardner than he does Jimmy Olsen kind of pisses me off. So
Yeah,
I just wanted.
You wanted to see more I guess connection between Jimmy and Clark in the movie.
That and I wasn't a huge fan of similar to Jake, the whole Eve Tessmacher bit. I think I would be more on. I'd be more into it if they didn't play it as a bit and they didn't play that as a joke, because I do think it's a very serious storyline.
Let me ask you a question about this, and this maybe I'm off on this.
Mm-hmm.
Was she too much of a caricature of a real person for you in the movie? Is that what it was? Like, it was unbelievably ditzy? Is that what we're getting at here? Or
I think it's one of those situations where, for me, like James Gunn, I think sometimes takes these very serious topics and turns them into bits a bit too much for my liking.
So you mean like an abused girlfriend situation? Is that what you're talking about?
It's a domestic violence story, and I really I hated the scene where she is trapped
getting
there,
dragged.
and Jimmy's trying to help him, and Jimmy's if I do this, can we hang out this week? And he's like, well, it's I was like, get her out of there. She is in a unsafe situation. And I'm not saying you have to make this super dark, but I do wish they played that scene, to me, a bit more serious, to let the stakes of that.
I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that some of the humor overshadows things that could have been more emotionally driven.
Yeah, that entire plotline, I personally, and there's a way to make Jimmy Olsen and Eve comedic, but I think playing it the way they did, to me, did Jimmy Olsen favors.
Outside of the Eve stuff that was happening to her, I enjoyed her character. I thought she was a very good character in the movie.
I have no issues with Eve herself. I think
she saved the motherfucking day, because without her, they would have been screwed.
That's fine. That's
first she took a selfie.
Fine.
Yeah.
I guess. I just wish it played out differently, personally.
Yeah. But also, I will say, as much as I go ahead, Jake, sorry.
If she's taking pictures of all those things with that stuff in the background, how did Lex never pick up on that?
because
he
I
doesn't
think
care.
that was her.
doesn't
I
pay
think that was
attention to
Lex's
her.
blind spot, basically.
That just means he was too easily fooled, though.
Absolutely.
Not really.
But he's probably going to learn after
Easily
this.
fooled because he has an ego. I think that the thing is
Yeah.
we're supposed to see that his ego allowed him to overlook that. Is what.
But that's also
He's probably going to learn after this. He's like, all right, now I can't trust anybody.
I will say we got
to be
more.
to be fair, this is the second Eve that fooled a Lex.
yeah.
This
I
is
think
the second time that Eve fooled a Lex. Arrowverse Eve did the same thing. She turned out to be a complete genius.
I think Lex always kind of has that bit of a blind spot, though. Like, he's so smart, but he can be very dumb if he's not focused in on what's going on. Like, look at like Smallville Lex. Like, he refused to notice what was right in front of him for years because he didn't want to believe it until it was too late. You know, like the Superman Lois Lex is very similar. Very, he has a lot of resources, but he was so blinded by his hate, he made stupid decisions. And I think. Yep. I think this Lex is very similar, where he was so focused on Superman and what's going on that like he just didn't give a shit about Eve whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Like she was just a toy to him. Yeah. It was just a side piece that
I would
he
like
really care about.
Basically say like we got they gave Jimmy more respect in this movie than they did with Batman v Superman. Just like
that wasn't not Jimmy though.
That Jimmy wasn't even a character. Like,
well, I mean, Jimmy's like in a lot of media. I mean, I think the only one that really hasn't done this is probably My Adventures with Superman.
Yeah,
but Jimmy's been an outdated character lately, to where they either barely used him at all, like Superman and Lois. They changed him drastically, like in Supergirl, or they did both, like the DCEU, where they changed him drastically and barely used him.
Which is why I think it was so important for them to get this one right. And I'm not saying they necessarily did him wrong, because I think casting wise, that's a perfect like modern day Jimmy casting. And like even to the point we're talking about a potential spin-off series for like Jimmy Olsen. So I'm not against that, but I'm curious to see like
what story is there to tell.
Right. So let's go ahead and talk about that briefly. Mr. Terrific spinoff, yes, 1,000 times. Give me a Mr. Terrific spinoff, or the Terrifics. I'll take that too.
Yeah, because you have two of the members in the movie already.
Jimmy Olsen as a character by himself, I don't know if that's enough for me to say, yeah, I want to see that show.
What's the story there?
It's just a plot. Like it has to be either like Daily Planet, which can be like your like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. of like the DC universe, where you're kind of telling these stories from the perspective of a journalistic lens, which I'd be okay with if done right. Or it's like Jimmy is the main character in this larger story that we're telling, and it's like his view line of something. It just depends how it's done. Yeah, it could either be very, very boring, or it could be the greatest thing they've ever done.
Yeah, what was your worried because it's so easy to do that wrong, because then you end up with something like Powerless.
What was your interpretation of the scene where they basically confirmed that Lois has been seeing Superman for 3 months? Like, do they know that he's Clark?
Oh, you mean at the end of the movie, like the end?
Because I feel like
I don't know what to think of that. I mean, I assume they've been together for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
they know about it.
Do they know that he's Clark Kent?
No,
and that the hypnograss is basically
Perry
does.
Probably. Perry gave Clark the same exact look twice throughout the entire film, and Clark makes it his mission to not make eye contact. And also, I heard you guys talking about like the Clark Kent stuff earlier. One of the details that I do like that what David does is the fact that he'll wear his glasses like this and be looking over them when he's walking. He'll have his head tilted down, but like when Perry looks him dead in the eyes, he goes up because he doesn't need the glasses to see. I'm honestly convinced that these glasses kind of distort his vision as well, because I think he was just that big enough of a dork to get glasses that are actually prescription, as well as like the hypno aspect. That way he can do the clumsy bumbling thing even more. I just like those little details that they added in there, as well with the oversized suit and the like oversized pants, and how he's just like so unassuming. You wouldn't think that Lois is dating this guy,
right?
But then when they get in the apartment and they start having sex over breakfast and like kissing over the toaster while they're toasting bread, I said, Jesus,
I will give credit to them in that scene for, especially David, because just the bit that follows that with their whole interview, and I mentioned this, I think said to Lance and Darren earlier, but you have during that sequence where even though he's not in costume and they're just talking to each other, he's able to just switch from the Superman face that is on the record answering the questions, trying to be be the face of the world's hero, and then still just whenever it calls for it, the facade, the mask, if you will, is torn away, and then you get to see the real Clark Kent behind it. It's like, wait, you weren't supposed to say that. No one else knows about that except you. That was supposed to be confidential. And then he gets back into interview Superman mode, and he's able to just slip back and forth out of those two personas mindsets pretty damn seamlessly. So even though I had issues with the movie, I do have to give David credit for that.
I also like the fact that he was raised, he was raised on a farm, so he wasn't well versed in technology. So him trying to figure out how to shut off the recorder kind of emphasized that he wasn't knowledgeable in technology.
Oh, Eric, also what I wanted to tell you is you missed another character off of Superman and Lois in this in the film. Cheryl Kimball.
Oh, yeah.
She was one of she was the main henchwoman. It like a lot of those characters were like really, really, really deep cuts from the comics.
Yeah.
Like the twins that were working there, I think they were like the tiger something.
Same thing with like Ron Troop. He's in the movie, but I don't remember him having any lines.
He doesn't have any lines, but I guarantee you he has lines on the cutting room floor.
He probably had lines that were cut.
They did Steve Barr really dirty with the seat thing.
Perfect for Steve Lombard.
So, Silhouette Animated with the $5 super chat. You sent me a DM on Instagram with Peacemaker season 2 footage. That is not officially released, so I can't show it on here.
Yeah,
it's like recorded from somebody's phone. So the minute I show that on here, the video will get flagged, and maybe Rick flagged. Maybe even a strike, because if it's like copyright, like unreleased copyrighted footage, they don't play around with that. So I'm looking at it now, but I can't show this on here.
Eric just got exclusive access.
Hold on for a second. I'm trying to see what it says here. Yeah, I can't show this. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it, but I can't. I'm pretty sure it'll be like they'll release it officially like this week or next week, most likely. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see here. All right, before we do the last bit of these super chats, we're just going to give our score on Superman, and then we'll answer some of these super chats and wrap up the stream. So for me, I enjoyed it. I've already seen it twice. I will probably see it a third time. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it's a fun movie, and I can understand why people are enjoying it and going back and seeing it multiple times. So I would probably give it somewhere between like an 8 and an 8.5 for me. I think that's kind of where I'm at on it, because there are some issues I have with it, but overall the good outweighs the bad. So I'm sitting between an 8 and 8.5 for me. 3Dub, what would you give it?
I'm giving it a high one, 9.8.
Oh, all right, almost really perfect score from 3Dub. Jake, what about you? Oh no, here we go.
I definitely had more.
The chat's gonna eat you up, Jake. Come on.
I don't care. There were things I definitely liked about this movie. A lot of things I didn't, but a lot of things I did like had a but after it. So it's weird. I'm probably gonna have to see the movie again just to see if anything changes. I'll just go ahead and fucking say this. As of now, again, I've only seen it once. I'm probably sitting at somewhere like a 6.
Ooh. So right above mid.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that again? Can
He
you
said
repeat that?
0.
What
Jake
did
said
he say?
0.
What did he
0. Jake
All
said
right.
0.
say? Remember that tomorrow, Jake. Jake, I got a heaping helping of cancel culture coming your way tomorrow. Well, yeah.
Is that mixed in your birthday cake?
Yeah. Yeah.
I gave it 4 out of 5 on my letterbox.
Okay.
I like it. I like it a lot. I love what it's doing, but I would say it's quite flawed in many aspects, but in a way that I still think is magical and beautiful, and something that we still have not quite seen in live action on the big screen ever, I'd say.
What about you, Lance?
As everybody may know, I enjoyed the film. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I even found myself at times sitting there watching it on my second watch, and at times I saw myself envisioning Tyler Hoechlin on the big screen in place of David. Why? I don't know, but everybody knows Tyler is daddy, and that's my favorite Superman ever. But yeah, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. 8.5, and that's just, I gave it the 0.5 because I enjoyed the Supergirl cameo, which I don't get why people are upset about that.
I
read
don't get
Woman
it
of
either.
Tomorrow, you idiots. Just read that. But yeah.
You're asking people to read.
Eric, how did you feel about that?
About which one? Which part?
Supergirl.
Oh, I loved it. That's got me excited for the movie.
Yeah,
we're finally gonna get a comic. Well, I guess Laura.
Is this a hot
Vanderrook
take?
was
I'm actually now that little bit. I'm actually more excited for Supergirl than I was for Superman.
same.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the only maybe this was just because I know the source material, I know what's there, so I felt a little annoyed that at the end of this movie they're spoon feeding you and telling you directly what's happening. It's like, hey, she that goes to this red planet, goes to get drunk because we can't experience alcohol under a yellow sun. It's like, if you're gonna say that, because I get not everybody going into that movie is going to be familiar with the source material, but just wait for that movie to go into all that. I don't think you need to do it here.
How
Now-
does she leave a planet with a red sun? Oh, gosh, shit. That's a no. Oh, no. She takes in the comics she does take Red K.
Yes.
She takes Red K because that doesn't negate your powers.
No.
In the comics, it does not make you angry. Red K makes you stronger, I believe. In like
it amplifies.
it amplifies, so that's how she can still get around and fight. She's gonna be in outer space majority of this film, so I think they're going to. A lot of people are gonna be confused as hell once they see what Red K actually is supposed to do, because James Gunn is gonna go real comic booky with it. Like they're gonna be looking for her to get all angry and aggro, but that's just like a Smallville Arrowverse thing. Like it doesn't really do that.
I do give this movie credit for leaning into the comic roots. It's not.
Oh, it was very comic booky.
It's not remotely ashamed to lean into the comic aspect.
Bright colors, really silly dialogue, stuff that you would see.
And I said this walking out of the movie too. Even if it wasn't for me in a number of aspects, this is going to be the first time that a lot of kids growing up right now see Superman on the big
Absolutely.
screen.
That was one of the things I noticed in both of my showings is that it was full of kids.
Right.
My kids loved it, bro. Like they still have not shut up.
If that in turn makes kids growing up right now a fan of the character and gets them into more stuff, then great, terrific. It did its job.
Yeah. Well, now I have a question for you guys before we end off here. Now that Superman is done, what is our now most anticipated DCU project?
I thought you were going to say movie.
Project.
Are we talking about stuff that we know is coming out or things that are rumored to be coming out?
Just like anything that's kind of like on the table that we know about.
Supergirl easily for me.
Supergirl.
I'd say it's a tie between Brave and the Bold and Lanterns for me.
Yeah,
Lanterns.
I think if Teen Titans is happening, then that. But if not, I'd go Lanterns. Or if it is officially announced soon, Mr. Terrific would be very high on my list.
Give me a Terrifics movie. Yeah. I would love a Terrifics movie.
He had the best action scene in the entire movie.
That orb, the T-Sphere and the orb over Lois scene was
so
That's
good.
how you use a character like that in
incredible. And the fact that I saw fucking the Geeks and Gamers guy hashtag Black Lives Matter on that scene, I was like, bro, are you kidding me?
Fucking Christ. Remember when Grace Randolph had a big issue with the?
Yeah, you missed that, Darren. I brought that up.
God.
I was like, she thought he couldn't nail it. He ends up being one of the best characters in the movie.
He's so good.
Right. Yeah, because his hair wasn't sexy enough or whatever.
That's right. I remember that. Silhouette Anime with a $5 super chat says, since Lex harvested the space between worlds, the bleed, then he probably sold some property to White Dragon. Do you think that's what happened with White Dragon?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe. I actually pulled up the article. We're gonna read what happens in that scene briefly. It's like one paragraph. So we'll do that. Lone Wolf here with a $5 super chat. Thoughts on the video? I know you said save it for spoilers just in case. I'm sure you guys will agree on it. I might watch it if people have to go. We'll see how long. I haven't clicked on it yet. We'll see how long it is. If it's like very short, we'll watch it. But
I don't know if anyone brought this up in the stream at all yet. I will say one other thing I did like about the movie, probably my second favorite character behind Mr. Terrific. I really liked what they did with Metamorpho. I don't know if anyone's talked about that.
Metamorpho was another one of my favorite characters.
I really liked him in that movie.
Yeah. Lone Wolf, I will watch it here at the end. I'll probably just watch it. It's like 5 minutes. I tend to pause and talk, but we will just watch it and then I'll give my opinion on it. Silhouette Anime with the $5 super chat. Steve Lombard's Freddie Mercury stash baby Miss Thomas Wayne from Pennyworth and his sexy mustache.
Oh God.
I will say this. I thought he was funny. I think he was underutilized. He wasn't in the movie that much. And he was probably one of the funniest. Like the dad humor that he had was pretty funny.
That's pretty like Steve is like one of those characters though. Like I wanted more like Daily Planet stuff, but like he is always kind of one of those characters that is always a background. Like the only thing I've really seen with that has had him in a prominent role, I feel like, is like My Adventures is like the one that they've made him an actual.
You know, it's funny. I didn't even realize that's who the character was until you guys told me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
because I only really paid attention to him in that cartoon.
Right.
So
it felt like Peter to me.
Silhouette Anime with the $5 super chat says DCU's terrific. Mr. Terrific just shows how much of a clown the Arrowverse version was. I feel so bad for him. They didn't do him right in the Arrowverse, but
I still believe that he has metahuman powers that can actually have his hair braided in 30 seconds or less.
Maybe.
Costume was the only thing they got right.
I did think it was funny that he didn't win a fight until like season 7, and then this Mr. Terrific came up in here and instantly is a badass. Instantly, like it's just aura farming all over the place.
Yeah, it was.
That's how he is, though.
He's so awesome. Yeah.
We have a $5 super chat from Cameron. Eric, have you seen the Nexus Point News? Got more information on the Clayface movie. I do have that. Let me grab that quickly. We'll just read it very, very quickly here.
I'll definitely be better served in this role than in his Marvel role.
Here we go.
Wait, what?
The actor for Terrific, Eddie Gathegi.
Oh.
It's actually Gathegi.
Whatever.
That's how you pronounce his name.
It says here, the film follows Matt Hagen's version of Clayface as he moves on from Gotham City to Hollywood to become an actor. Hagen's career will become derailed as he's attacked and disfigured. Dr. Caitlin Bates, an original character created for the film, seeks to cure Matt's condition, falling in love with him throughout the process. The film's antagonists are Caitlin's fiance, John, who is suspicious of their relationship, and a mob boss, both original characters. So a bunch of original characters in this. No prominent DC characters are set to appear instead of focusing on a character-driven horror narrative. The film was originally set in Matt Reeves' epic crime saga before moving to the DCU. Thoughts on this?
David Cornsweet sent him a letter saying congratulations. He's cementing himself as the pillar in this universe. So
I mean, I like Mike Flanagan's work.
No, you don't.
We'll just see what happens here.
Yeah, Anthony says this sounds like a Sony movie. I mean,
I don't agree.
It could end up being that, but I don't know if this is what it's going to be.
No, because they're not trying to make the lead villain a hero.
They're not trying to make him an anti-hero. He's gonna be a villain.
Right, which is like exactly what the Penguin did.
I mean, I will say, I think DC has way more characters that can kind of run on their own than Marvel has.
Yeah.
I think Marvel is so much more attached to their heroes, where especially the Batman Rogues Gallery, like Joker, you can argue if that worked or if it didn't. I think that's a separate story. I think a character like Clayface is so interesting, not because of Batman. Like, I think he is on his own such a fascinating story, and I think taking anything out of Superman, I think it should be that these standalone projects, I think, need to be kind of what they're focusing on, because it's making a lot of money because it's not connected to this large universe as of yet. So I think these like solo little low budget solo projects like this, I think this will make a lot of money. I think it's going to do very, very well. I mean, I'd like a couple little tiny cameos here and there just to be like, not something blatant, but I would like a little, maybe a mention of someone or something to happen in here. I do think it's also interesting that they, like, these Batman side projects have been, like, going back and forth between what universe they were supposed to be in, because we heard the same exact thing with the, like,
the Arkham series.
The Arkham series, yeah. And I do wonder if this is maybe also because I do think at one point in time there was probably at least a discussion about, well, should we merge? It looks like we're not going that direction, but like,
or the question could be: are we going to have to wait 10 years to make this movie because it's taking so long for Matt Reeves to make the Batman?
Can I be honest though? And I was talking to I was in a group chat with a bunch of my friends earlier today, and like there was about 4 of them in there. All 4 of them wanted very badly for this to be connected to Matt Reeves' Batman. Like, they all really, really wanted it. And I would not be shocked if they make the switch. No.
You think so?
I'm not confident with it, but it's
I think it's a moneymaker for DC regardless of where they put it, because it's not going to be as much to make this movie.
Right. I think it's going to be like, what, 40 million was the budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, we've gone back and forth about, like, should, Robert Pattinson's Batman be in the blah, blah, blah. And I see both sides to it, and I'm open to either or. But I think right now it might almost be simpler. Instead of trying to work around this, like...
Especially if you're not going to have any connective stuff in it from the DCU. It just seems like, why?
You could, like, right now, it might be easier to be like, well, we can't get this Brave and the Bold up off the ground because we have we have Batman Part 2, and if there is a campaign that to combine these 2 characters, they might be like, you know what, Matt Reeves, let's sit down and talk about this. Is there a world where this can happen? And I think we're going to find out about that very soon, because I think they've been waiting to see the success of Superman.
Sidaway Animated with another $5 super chat says, do you know any Hollywood mob boss villains from the comics? Exactly. Also, I guess the Clayface Basil Carlo one from Future Commandos is dead. Yeah, I think that character's gone.
Yeah.
Did they say he was Basil?
No, they said this is another person. This is
no, I'm saying, did they say the one in Creature Commandos was Basil?
I don't know if they did or not.
I don't think
they didn't name him. They didn't name him.
Well, whoever that version is gone though. I don't think he's alive.
Is he? This might be the origin for that version.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's dead.
I imagine we'll probably see. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but if they use those same mobsters from the Batman animated series Feet of Clay 2-parter, if they use those same people who I can't remember the names of right now, but I mean, would that be easy? Yes, but they could definitely do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just adapt that story, but like without Batman. Like, it's very easy to just
which
do
you
that.
can easily do.
Yeah, easily.
All right. So...
like just replace like this love interest character with Batman. Like have her be that like voice of reason that's trying to like get him out of the situation.
So this is what was in that Peacemaker footage that we can't watch. The footage from Peacemaker Season 2 trailer shown in theaters starts with Christopher Smith, Peacemaker, and his best pal, Eagly, and the Eagle accessing his father, White Dragon's room of interdimensional portals. The pair ends up in the new DCU, a reality that Peacemaker quickly recognizes as brighter and more hopeful than his own, including a variant life in which he seems to be a much more respected figure, which might explain why he's in Superman's movie.
So I wonder if the start of I'm trying to think if there's anything that would contradict that. I wonder if like Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner and Maxwell. Like, I wonder if they're all the DCEU versions of those characters, and like that's the world where he's like not respected and not.
Well, you've already seen the.
They
DC
didn't exist in
Max
there
Lord.
though.
You've seen the DCU Max Lord already. That was
Did
Pedro
we?
Pascal.
Oh, that's God damn it! You're right.
Smith seems to quickly hatch a plan to survive in this new reality from
Right.
from his buddy Vigilante, and the end-game plan seems clear based on the previous trailer for Peacemaker to cross over permanently and replace his own variant of the DCU.
Called it.
And with Vigilante and others possibly scheming to do the same. So they're going to bring over basically that entire team and replace the versions in the DCU. There's plenty of footage in the sizzle reel that suggests that a Peacemaker playing in two realities will get complicated as he tries to maintain his life in the old DCU as normal while still going on to infiltrate missions in the DCU as he tries to track down and assassinate his target. And B, the plan will go sideways and we see hints of characters from both realities battling Peacemaker and company. This sounds very complicated and
a
mess, I think.
This is also, I think, like, you can argue that Chris has always been a very unlikable character, right? But I think if they fully commit to like killing off their alternate counterparts and replacing their life, that makes them horrible people. That makes them like irredeemable people.
Especially if the people aren't trying to kill them.
Yeah, he was a horrible person.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
they're doing a Flash season 2, and I called it. Everybody, give me a hand because I called this weeks ago.
I mean, it would make Vigilante less of a caricature idiot like he was in Peacemaker. That series kind of ruined Vigilante for
But
me.
the issue is,
love that character outside of that.
The issue is this is kind of like opposite of what James is accomplishing with Superman, which is taking these characters that people love and putting them in a position like they're not good people now. They're actually bad people. And they're pretending to be good people. And is this ever going to amount to anything? Like, is anybody in the DCU going to figure out that these aren't the people they're supposed to be? Is that what we're going to have to deal with? Like, I don't understand.
The only way this works for me is if they die in other capacities. Like, if they're going over and they're trying to figure out how to do it and they get, like, ran over by a truck or something.
Or they don't have
like,
a doppelganger. They don't have an actual
like
doppelganger. Like, they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you cannot have like them kill their cat like that like would ruin the show for me, I think.
Well, it does look like in the trailer that the DCEU Peacemaker tries to shoot the DCU Peacemaker tries to shoot the DCEU Peacemaker, and that he's defending himself. I guess
if it's self-defense, I can have a
which I think is what happens to Peacemaker, but I think everyone else would have to just kill their counterparts unless
the other ones don't exist. Like,
right, that's
unless
what I'm saying.
It's only Peacemaker and
right.
He kills them by self-defense. He's like, guys, come on.
But then how do they exist in the DCU with no history? Like, that's also going to be a little difficult for some.
I mean, they're all kind of like smaller characters. Like, like I feel like the characters in like Team Peacemaker are smaller characters. So I could think of, think in a world where it's like, okay, this universe doesn't have like a Hargrave or something.
Silhouetted Animator with the $5 super chat. Did the cameo of Peacemaker and the Superman have the different logo? I don't remember now, to be honest. With the reverse dove, I don't remember.
I didn't notice.
It looked like the original suit, which what makes they probably just needed to throw him in something to film that 2-second scene. Also, the another fun fact: the guy that was doing that, like the guy that had the talk show throughout the entire movie, when they actually announced the film, he posted on Twitter saying, "Hey, James Gunn, can I be in the movie?"
Yeah,
he really did cast this from Twitter.
Can I just go back slightly, just a minute, to kind of go back to what we were saying earlier? I think it does actually make sense that this Peacemaker would be more popular on his world, because we are in this world, like you guys were saying earlier, of like heroes being looked upon more positive, or like violent heroes being looked upon more positively. It seems like heroes killing is the normal and is kind of like the main thing. So
it's not even positively. It's just like you said. It's just
it's normal. Yeah,
they're used to it.
So yeah, it would make sense that he's more popular than like, he's like he's on the bar as like Hawk Girl and Lantern and stuff like that.
Damian Wayne is a Jesus Christ.
All right, so I've pitched this up 1.25 because wanted us to like watch it. We're gonna give it a shot, but I'm gonna say this, that I'm ending the stream in like 10 minutes no matter what. So let's try and get through as much of this as possible, I guess.
On the internet, Superman is not a political movie. It's actually incredibly frustrating that this narrative has spread so quickly across the internet because it's coming from people that have not seen the movie. There's this whole narrative about how it's a movie all about immigration and commenting on immigration. Well, I mean, Superman is an alien that is an immigrant here. It's about how he feels alone and he's trying to fit in. But the movie in no way at all is commenting on immigration issues in the 21st century. It's certainly not commenting on things going on in the United States in the year 2025. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just the fact that in the source material, Superman is not from the Earth. That's as deep as it goes. And people are trying to...
I would disagree with that slightly.
It's a very political movie.
Yeah, I think they're talking about like a political invasion of another country, whether it's fictional or not, and the fact that Superman's parents seem to have sent him to the Earth, presumably, we don't know for sure what is going to end up being with this, but presumably to take over the Earth and basically rule over it, based on the footage.
And have a lot of sex.
Yes, that too.
I got distracted by the dogs in the background.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, I'm not saying that it's not literally the same as what we have going on, but it is dealing with politics within this world for sure.
I mean, I was actually kind of shocked how, and I don't think he meant.
I mean, it deals with propaganda too, Darren. Like that's another thing.
No, 100%. Yeah, and I don't think he meant it while he was writing the movie to be how relevant as it is, but the movie is very, very relevant to today's current.
Yeah, the world didn't let
political
him down.
climate.
Yeah,
like it was like, oh my gosh, this mirrors like our political struggles to a T right now in a scary way.
But I don't disagree that a lot of the discourse, because this video was made a week ago, a lot of the discourse at that point was coming from people that hadn't seen the movie. So I do agree with that. Anyway, let's continue.
Make this into this whole other thing and comment that it's woke Superman, all this stuff. That's just not in the film. That's not what it is. There's also a conflict in the movie that's kind of central to the plot about one nation trying to invade another country that, once again, people are trying to say is about different conflicts kind of going on, and people completely missing that this movie was written like 3 years ago, like quite a while ago.
I don't think it actually is a one-for-one like combination of any real thing that's happening right this second, but it does speak to invasions of countries from a political perspective. Like the stuff with say Ukraine and Russia has been going on since like 2014. So it was actually happening. It just wasn't as obvious and big as it is now since it first happened with the Crimea stuff. Anyway, we'll continue.
And couldn't be referencing things from the last 2 years because it was written before all of that. And the central message is dictators invading countries is bad.
That's true.
Which I think we can all agree with. It's literally like a cartoon dictator villain who's super evil and conspiring to do super evil things. This is not making some deep commentary on modern polarizing political issues. But
I actually disagree again. I don't think it's a one-for-one, but it's definitely an allegory. I feel like there's a statement there about just generalizing, like he said, about dictators and stuff. But I think that does speak to modern times, even if it isn't a direct correlation to like a politics.
Also, like I do agree with him where it's like to the extent where people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how woke it is, and then the woke messaging is like, hey, be a good person, right? Like the most basic, like preschool level messaging that is somehow relevant to be said.
Yeah. I will say this, though. I want to point out, I don't have an issue with politics and social issues being in movies as long as it's central or say central, as long as it's relevant to the plot of the movie. I don't have an issue with it. If it's just kind of in there just for no reason at all, it is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But I think saying the movie is not political in defense of people being mad that there are politics in it is not a stance that I would personally take. I would just push back and say, does it matter in the story? Like, is it an important part of the movie? But again, this was a week ago. So anyway, let's go.
What does the internet love to do? Invent narratives and mash everything into their favorite narrative. Thus, a Superman movie that's lighthearted, it's fun, suddenly has to be injected into modern culture wars. Like, it's just not there.
Well, I mean, I think what we're also missing is that, and I've said this before, I make videos about this a lot, so I understand this. It is for monetary reasons. The people that do this to make money. So they just attack movies like this because it's a paycheck for them. So I think trying to rationalize whether or not they're being good faith when they're doing it is just, it's not even worth the time and effort because they're doing it to make money. straight up. So
if you're nervous about this movie because it's an immigrant story, don't be nervous. That's not what the movie's not lecturing you on immigration. It has nothing meaningful to say about immigration, like at all. The movie's message is be kind, be a good person.
That's true.
Make individual choices day to day to be the person that you want to be.
I mean, that's part of the struggle that Clark and Superman is having in the movie when he's trying to decide if he should intervene with other places outside of the United States, because he's like, people would die if I don't do anything. So he's struggling with that internally, and you see that pushback from Lois. But ultimately, I think we find out that his decisions to help was the right decision, because the dictator was an evil person. Surprise and shock, right? I mean, wasn't the biggest surprise, I guess.
Yeah,
that's kind of it. The story is not something deeper than that. Like any sort of there's a little bit of xenophobia from Lex Luthor, who's the villain, but his fear is about people that are actually superpowered. That what do you do with that? And you could say there's just no parallel.
I don't think his xenophobia is probably. I mean, it's projected xenophobia, but I don't think that's what it was. Yeah. I think it's a Lex's ego. He wants to control everything, and he's using xenophobia as a scapegoat for that.
I mean, there's definitely like a racism undertone to a lot of things that's going on in this movie, but again, that shouldn't be a controversial take. No. You know, like in the great year of 2025, shouldn't be like how dare my villain be?
I mean, Sean points out that Lex is the villain, so I mean that
right,
track,
yeah.
Right? So I mean, you expect that.
Between Superman and modern day immigration issues, there's not like a parallel that you can say. This is a great metaphor for what's going on today, because there aren't people flying with laser eyes. It's not the same thing.
Okay, can I bring up? I don't want to derail this too much, but I do want to bring this up. People did say that Lex's guys flying around in the suits and everything, they are similar to some of the immigration stuff that's going on right now, where they're taking people to these sites and then locking them up without any due process and everything, because that's what's going on with Lex's interdimensional space. He just locks people up and leaves them there without any sort of due process or anything like that. And yes, I guess I can see that allegory because it does make sense, but it goes back to the idea that this was before the movie was written, before all of this happened. So if it was talking about that, it wasn't talking about it specifically about what's going on right now in the United States, if that makes any sense.
So it's an enormous controversy from people that have not seen the film, that read an article from someone that made some irresponsible statement that just led to 1,000 think pieces that are not about what's actually in the movie. But hey, that's the year 2025. And this is my big problem with so much of it. It's coming from people that have not seen the film.
True.
They just heard something and they believed it was true because it fit a narrative they wanted to be true.
True.
Yeah.
It's like this dumbest version of confirmation bias, because it's not even that people watched the movie looking to find political messaging and thus confirming their bias. They have not seen the movie yet. They just read something that confirmed what they wanted to be true so they could be angry at Hollywood, and they ran with it. If people watch the movie and they see something in it that I missed and they can articulate that well, fair enough. Let's have a discussion about what you saw that was political, that was polarizing. But almost all of this is coming from people that have not seen the movie yet, that are mad because they read a thing that confirmed.
Okay, I think we kind of get the gist of the video. We're going to drop it there. But I agree and disagree, but I want to put this out there. We need to stop apologizing and making excuses for people being mad that movies are trying to send good messages. I feel like making videos saying it's okay to dislike him. I'm not saying this is what he's saying. This is a little straw man-y, but to sort of say I could understand people being mad at the movie because it is woke if these things were actually happening. Because it seems like he was saying that people were mad because the stuff wasn't in it and therefore it's not justified. I don't think it's ever justified. I don't think it's ever justified to be mad at a movie because it has something to say.
Yeah.
I think if you don't want to watch the movie, that's fine. But to get mad at a movie or, say that the movie shouldn't exist because it's got political or social messages, I will never apologize for that. Just don't see the movie if you don't want to see it.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Anything else to say before we wrap all this up, everybody?
Nope.
Nothing left? Rhea here says, to be fair, I don't recall the word immigration coming up in the discourse of the movie until Gunn said it on the day. Exactly, it doesn't. It's all basically what you read into it in the film. It's all there for you if you want to see it, and if you don't want to see it, you just don't see it. And I think that's a fair way. James Gunn said the movie's for everybody. That's what he said on the red carpet. So take his word for it. Anyway, I think Jake fell asleep. He's got his camera off. He's not talking. So I think he's asleep. But thanks, Jake, for coming in. 3Dub, who is also off camera, who's probably eating pizza. Oh, there he is. I thought you might have a Domino's pizza, 3Dub. Thank you for coming in. Darren for showing up after being on stream himself for several hours and then coming over here for a couple hours. It's always a rough time. And Lance for coming in and letting everybody have it. So that was good. Always showing up. I thought Paige was going to be here to rebut some of Lance's stuff, but he's not.
That Eric versus Lance just highlighted the stream. It's going. He's like,
yeah, I know. People were like coming in and jumping in the conversation. It was funny. Anyway, all right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks everybody for hanging out, and we'll see everyone on Thursday. Wait. Hold on. I almost forgot to end the poll. Let's see what the thing goes.
Yeah. Well, what one?
Yeah, let's see what won. Hold on. End poll. Hold on. See what it is. Why is it not showing up for me? Hold on, let me refresh. Oh, here it is. The winner is, with 33%, top 5 underrated comic book films. But a very close second was the worst Arrowverse supporting cast. It was very close.
Underrated comic book films.
So you can do let's do a top 3. We'll do top 3. Top 3 underrated comic book films with honorable mentions. So it can be anything, but it cannot be something that is beloved, that is not underrated. It is something that you like. This can be an animated movie. It can be live action. It can be from any era at all. So we can go all the way back to the 80s if you want. It has to be a comic book movie, not necessarily a superhero movie, but a comic book movie that is underrated in your opinion, that doesn't get enough love. So think about that. And we're getting out of here. Have a good night, everyone. Bye. We hit